All right. All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. There's my shirt right there. Go outside, you nerd.
Go outside, nerd.
Nerd.
I ain't got time for your worthless chime in. Gone.
You know, they tried to make nerdism cool back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, with the whole Revenge of the Nerds crap.
And that way, the way they would laugh.
Well, people think like nerds are like always innocent. They can be mean, dude.
No, they're not. They're not. I call it Revenge of the Rabbis. That's pretty much what it is. But yeah, everybody's like all on board with it. So, you know, whatever. Because you know, the thing is, people are always like one way or the other. They're like, oh, I'm really smart.
Yeah.
So you have to have, you know, little tube arms, you know, because you're smart. You know, if you're really smart, you would work on your body too.
Well, being scrawny makes you smarter.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Tony's looking. He's like, look at him. Look at Tony.
Yeah, he's a smart.
I agree. You're not going to believe this.
You sound like Squidward.
Yeah, see, he can do this, and that adds IQ points. Like,
oh, you're so special. You got laser eye surgery. Now you can't use glasses.
Well, yeah, but it made me dumber because I don't have glasses.
Yeah, he's not. He's not a revenge guy no more. He ain't into that. He don't do it anymore. Let me see. Let me see if it adds IQ points to me. Let's see here.
There you go. Now you got to start talking with a British accent.
Ooh. Let's see if it goes down. Oh, good.
With the tape on.
I am so smart. I am smart. That makes up for my really weak, scrawny arms.
I'm smart, so I'm poor. Or I'm too poor to buy new glasses.
Bryce says Revenge of the Nerds ruled. No, it didn't. When I was a kid and I didn't know no better, I thought it was cool, but then I realized what it really was.
I never actually saw it, but I never really liked the concept.
I call it Revenge of the Untermensch.
They're a bunch of creeps.
They are.
It's like,
I mean, and you look at who they are. I mean, come on. And then
they look like weasels.
Yeah, they're little shit bags, dude. They're just like people who can't work out, you know.
It's like the natural order turned on its head.
But there is, you know, I see both sides. Like I go to the gym and I'll meet some really intelligent people, but then I'll meet some people who are just like
meatheads.
Yeah. I mean, their brain is just a life support system for their
muscles,
for their pecs, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, good grief, dude. They're just not. They're not there, you know. I don't know what to think about that. But I think you have to have both. I think if you're a well-rounded individual, you have mind, body, spirit connection, right? I think that you should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I look at all sides of issues. I look at all the angles, and I have friends that are always trying to, you know, and I don't want to get involved too much into the, you know, geopolitical, whatever, but I have people trying to politic to me all the time about their take on something. And I'm like, look, I see both sides. It's never as cut and dry as they try to make it out to be. You have too many variables. 1 second, guys. Cut to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never really liked the whole like you either have to be really athletic and strong but like be a meathead, or you have to be like this scrawny or like really fat out of shape person and just be really smart.
That's either way.
Like why can't you use your brain and your body? Like it's a mark of a well-rounded person. Like, okay, you remember that show Jack Reacher?
Yeah.
Like you watched it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the perfect example of like the perfect blend of like mind and body.
But they don't understand it's all connected. You know, the spirit works. You strengthen the body to strengthen the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Strengthen the mind, strengthen the spirit.
Yeah. Well, I always I like that character a lot. And
I don't like Tom Cruise version of him.
No, not Tom Cruise. I mean the actual big guy, not the Tom Cruise is
You can't
like,
have a midget.
what is he
playing
like?
that,
5 foot tall?
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
sorry,
much.
no, Tom Cruise.
You mean Thad from Blue Mountain State?
What is that?
It's a show that he played in first. It's like a football show.
What?
The guy from Reacher. He played Thad
Who's Thad?
from Blue Mountain State.
Blue Mountain State.
It sounds like it.
I'm lost too. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
It's a football show.
never
I
heard of it.
figured you guys would know about it.
No.
Yeah, here's another thing too. Somebody made some kind of joke toward me the other day. They said something about, no, I'm into real things, not football. And I'm
Okay.
like, here's the thing I got to say about that. I'm into a lot of real things. I'm into the real reality. I am one of those people who is able to remember sports facts along with everything else that's really important. And I say that not to insult people who are into sports, but at the end of the day, it's really not that important. But it is, because they, sports is very galvanizing. And I've said this before, they use that to bring down the morale of people.
Oh yeah.
They attack Texas through sports because we're very proud and whatever. They love to do that. They love to cheat us out of stuff. And I used to think I was just, the old timers being sour grapes. No, you learn real quick. If you actually, the people who don't understand that are people who are not the fans of Texas teams.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see it, because if you're there watching the games day in and day out, I equate it to like how people also like they'll say, well, Emmitt Smith was good, but he wasn't that good. It was his offensive line. Okay, yeah, he had a great offensive line, which just made him better. But if you watch him run, he always broke the first, second tackle. He always hit the hole correctly, like he knew where to go. Those are things you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. And you could have the best offensive line in the world, but once you get a yard past that offensive line, you're on your own. You're the one that has to do everything. And he was great at making people miss. You would see him there. Go watch his highlights. You'll see him go into a crowd of dudes, and then he'll just spin out, and they're all falling all over each other, and he's running past them.
Yeah.
And he did that day in and day out. Now, people that didn't grow up watching the Cowboys every week like I did, they're not going to remember all those runs. I remember seeing him do things, catching a pass out of the backfield too. That has nothing to do with your offensive line. They're not blocking for you with that. And he would catch a pass out of the backfield. A lot of running backs, they don't really try. Like if they're not being handed the ball and it's not something they could do to pad their stats, they don't give a crap about catching the ball.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to help them. But
someone.
Smith he would block people. Yeah. On pass plays, he would block people. He would go over the middle and catch a pass, and then he would break it and head for daylight. And you just didn't see the people, and they comment and they say crap, and I'm like, I know this person is not a Cowboys fan. They did not grow up watching this guy every week. If you did, you'd be singing a different tune. And they always talk about Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders' problem was that he has a great highlight reel. But if you're a fan of the Lions, and they had like 3 perennial Pro Bowlers on that line, they just didn't have a quarterback. They had 2 All-Pros on that line. So they're talking about, his line. They don't ever say how great his line was. He had a great offensive line. He just didn't have a quarterback, which if you don't have a quarterback, you're dead as far as like an offense goes. But he spent a lot of time running backwards. Mm-hmm. He got negative yardage a lot because he did this running around, running backwards and trying to make stuff happen, especially early on in his career. Think about this. Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas actually both played for Oklahoma State under Jimmy Johnson at one point. Why do you think that Thurman Thomas, who I think Barry Sanders would be considered a far superior back, but yet he had to wait his turn behind Thurman? Because Thurman didn't get a lot of negative yardage plays in college, especially in college. Barry was always running backwards. And the coaches had to tell him, stop running east to west so much, run north-south. And he was not a real north-south runner. He was an east-west runner, which means somebody who jukes and cuts and goes this way to go that way, Mm-hmm. And he would lose yardage like all the time, whereas Thurman and Emmett didn't do that. So that's why he played behind Thurman. It's amazing that they were able to play together at the same time on the same team, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And then, of course, Jimmy Johnson went on to coach Emmett. Yeah. So when they drafted Emmett, everybody was like, what is he doing? This guy's too slow, too small. And I'm like, I think he knows what he's doing. He had Thurman and Barry. I mean, you know, I don't know, but that's my take on that, you know. But like, I have the capacity, unlike a lot of people, to remember tons and tons of information. And like, I can store a ton of information on there. I can tell you obscure stats from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Y'all know that.
Yeah.
You've heard me do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I do it all the time. But
another thing I noticed about people who don't seem to be too into sports or like have played sports as a kid is that they're kind of hard to work with. Like they don't understand teamwork as well.
They don't.
Because that's all sports, especially football. Like it doesn't matter how good you are at football. You're nothing without your teammates.
John Maddox says, I respect quarterbacks that run and don't slide. Yeah, I don't. Because that person's stupid. And I'll tell you why. Because nowadays you're going to get smacked. And if you get smacked nowadays, you're going to get your head blown off. I mean, it is ridiculous.
No.
These guys nowadays, man, that's why the helmets keep changing into these space helmets, because they're trying to find a way to keep everybody safe. But damn, dude.
I mean, if you look at it correctly, the
You
QBs
ruin your career just standing upright and taking a hit from one of them safeties, man. I'm telling you.
The QBs are basically the brain of the team. And that's like saying, I respect people who headbutt without helmets. Straight into walls. No.
And honestly, I can't say I respect that because that's not intelligent.
No.
You know, it just like in fight, like there's fight acumen, there's fight IQ, you know, there's at the end of the day, it's brute force, you know, and you deliver more blunt force trauma to your opponent than you take. That's pretty much in a stand-up fight.
Don't get hit, John.
But I can't respect somebody who just stands there and gets brutalized because your career is going to be short, and then you're not going to be respected because you're going to be talking like that the rest of your life because you stood there and took too much damage. And there's some great fighters, man. Look at Nate Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
He was down on 6th Street one night, and he had just gotten down there, and some of my friends were talking to him, hanging out with him, and he was talking like they thought he was already drunk. He wasn't. That's just Nate. Because he's taken so many. I watched his first ever fight on camera the other day on Martial Arts World. It's on Instagram, and he comes out and he's got like this frosted blonde hair. He was like a 16-year-old kid, and he, you know, no muscle tone. You know, Nate never worked out. You know, he comes out there, he's all, you know, and he takes this bigger, stronger, older guy and eventually takes him down and beats him.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of punching, they were kind of slapping each other, you know. But you could see that, like, he just looks like a Plastic Man, like a rubbery guy, you know. Just like, you're not going to hurt that kid.
Yeah,
like he's made of silicone or something.
you can't knock him out.
But he just stands there and takes abuse, and you're just like, but you pay the price. Now you know he talks like he's, you know, not. You know, and he's still got that dog in him, you know. Like if he hears me talking about him, he's like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up, you know. No, you're not. Maybe 20 years ago, you know, that's just not. Yeah, he's very punch drunk, Dick Richards. But he was a game bred fighter, you know. Speaking of game bred, he's another one.
Yeah.
You know, he's still trying to fight. He's like in his 40s. And at some Masvidal, you know, Cuban, he was Kimbo's guy, good friend of Kimbo's. And man, he was on Jackson's show the other day, and he was talking about, or I was watching it. It was a few weeks ago that I watched it, but he was talking about his career and still fighting and stuff. And I was just going like, man, you know, it's going to be time to hang it up. You're going to end up with some serious damage. And you know, he was talking about back in the day when Kimbo would go fight and these guys would come out with guns afterwards, you know. That alone should have motivated Kimbo to go into the professional route sooner than later, because you were going to end up getting shot. It happened to me in Louisiana and Vinton. I mean, you know, you win a fight and then everybody starts pulling out guns. I mean, they weren't after me. They were after the people that they were betting with. And so I thought, man, I'm going to end up getting held hostage here if I don't get the hell out of here. But so it's rough. But, you know, having been a fighter and by the grace of God not being brain damaged, I didn't take as many blows to the head as you would think, because I was pretty slippery. I always had really good head movement, you know, and I had good footwork, and you know, I managed to always just usually it was me machine gun punching. I'm really fast hands. For a big guy, you'd be shocked. I have a couple videos of me hitting speed bags, and I had some people, you know, a couple years ago, they were like, "Oh, I'm going to fight you." Yeah, right. And when they saw those videos, the heavy bag and speed bag work, then all of a sudden they quit talking about fighting me. I was a guy up in South Dakota, a boxer, so he was going to beat me up. And I was like, yeah, right. I posted those videos, and then he just kind of disappeared. But then I was also told, you know, that in Texas, you can't just, is that your back?
Yeah.
Golly. You can't just, you can't have, if you hurt somebody, even with a waiver, you could be in trouble. You know, I didn't know that. My lawyer was like, look, you need to chill out, you know, because I was totally willing to do it. I was like, look, you know, I was 48. I don't care. Because I mean, if you have that ability, you know, and that person's not somebody with skill or any, I mean, they're just some dopey shithead who smokes cigarettes and eats nachos. I mean, what are you going to annihilate them? It's going to take like 10 seconds.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not going to last long. You know, I mean, I can beat most skilled people. I mean, you know, even at my age, you know, you start getting older, the main problem is just injuries and you can't recover as fast. But now the wonder of supplements, they have supplements that can help you recover from injuries. Cause man, I had a torn muscle in my back. I thought it was you could feel like a knot in my back. I felt like, and I started taking some supplements, and it's crazy what you can do with supplements, and with the right nutrition, you can actually, you know, Thank you for that, Brandon. Brandon Holcomb says he saw me on LA Marzulli. Yeah, our new sub count is in the toilet right now. We're not bringing in many new people. We're not doing too good. Couldn't make it last night, folks. I had too much going on, man. So what we got going on, we're just letting people fill up the chat right now, and we're just talking about random stuff. But I believe in being well-rounded. You know, some people think, oh, if somebody can fight, then they're obviously stupid. They're not smart. You know, but that's not true either. I know some really smart fighters. I've met some really intelligent people. I mean, look at what's his face, American Gangster. What's his name?
Oh, Chael Sonnen?
Chael Sonnen. He's a smart guy.
Yeah,
he's really smart, and he's still got a real high IQ.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Look at Tank. Tank,
yeah.
before he was really intelligent. He just had the strokes and everything, and you know, you had some guys that were really. Jackson's smart.
Yeah,
he's a pretty clever guy.
Yeah, he's really witty.
He's really witty, and you look at some of these people, and you think, you know, and look at Tyson Fury. He's a pretty intelligent cat. He's not a dummy, and he's been hit hard. I mean, he got hit by the hardest in the business, and that was what's his face that he fought 3 times.
Deontay Wilder.
Deontay, you know. Wilder was a beast, but it doesn't, you know, people, what it is people that don't want to use their physical body. They just want to have this cerebral whatever, and they want to be like, I'm smart, so I don't need to be strong, because they are not strong. They're physically very, very inferior people. So they just totally go into the cerebral side, and they pretend in their mind that makes them superior to brutes. I had a guy used to work at the museum. He told me, he says, you know, I spend my time reading information, learning things, not lifting metal. That's what he said. So we were there at the museum, and so I told him, I said, he was my brother's friend. I'm not going to call him my friend because he wasn't. So I said, well, let's take an IQ test. Go bring it. That weekend, I showed back up over there, and I said, here you go. And I'm not going to embarrass him. Sometimes he still works there part-time, but it's a museum here in Central Texas. And I did go back, and I took, because it's not in this town, but I went back out there on the weekend. It's a very beautiful drive out there. So I took the IQ test out there, and my brother was like laughing. He goes, man, you know, you're going to blow him out of the water. He's not as smart as he thinks he is. He's just a skinny, long-haired goofball. And so, sure enough, we took the IQ test, and I was 33 points higher than him. Not taking anything away from him. Like his IQ was pretty high. It was like, 130. My highest I ever scored on IQ was 173. But I average around 163, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. Depends. I've taken many. Of course, the high one I took was one of those goofy ones on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Yeah.
To my opinion, anybody could
is.
be. You don't know what that is. So I don't really count that one. But I took one at the Dianetics. You know how they try to get you to.
Yeah.
I'm walking by the Scientology, and they're like, "Hey, take this IQ. I want to see your thetans."
Yeah. I kind of want to go in there just to see what kind of stuff they'll subject
It's
me to.
fun. You can go in there and take the little. They'll
Just
zap
mess
you
with
with the
them,
little. It's like they'll bring out the great Zohan or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Fortune teller.
Like I wouldn't lay it on too thick to where they know that I'm messing with them. I would just kind of like act like, I don't know. I'd have to be subtle about it.
Sean says I'm a
Take their energy.
diabetic. We're not talking about that, Sean. We're talking about Dianetics.
Scientology.
L. Ron Hubbard. And so I took the IQ test there. I scored the highest I scored on that one. I took it there 3 different times. You can't take it like I go to like once a year, and just it was like a thing I did right out there on the drag. It's still there. And so I took it, and my IQ was 167. Amazingly, though, Rogers was like 172. That was like freaking crazy, dude. He's one of my best friends, and he always said I was the smartest person he'd ever met. I thought he was the smartest person I'd ever met. I was like, well, you're pretty smart, He always said I was smarter than him. I didn't believe that. Never did. He died back in 2011. But that guy was hyper intelligent. But he was a spiritual atheist, because a lot of times people that are really smart, they kind of let their spirituality fall by the wayside. And that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake that people make. So you're talking about the mind, body, spirit connection. You have to have all 3.
Yeah, because you can be too smart for your own good.
Well, you have people also who are just like, they don't do anything with their body. If their body is good, good. If not, oh well. They live in this sort of spiritual haze where they don't do anything for their mind, and they're just into namaste and crystals and okay, to a degree, but if that's all you got going and you think you're living in the spirit world, well, I got news for you. Your body and your mind are still here. And remember this, you're here for a reason. You're here to learn. Not to pretend like you have all the answers and you got it figured out, because we don't. And we're constantly evolving and learning and growing. So you have the cerebral people who think that that they don't need their body. The day that they get their ass pummeled one day by somebody, they're going to wish that they had done something. And some of those people too are the scary gun people. They're really smart.
Yeah.
They're like, I have a gun. Remember the guys who live above us?
Yeah.
From what was he from? Angleton.
Yeah, he always had it on him.
He was always on.
Like even when he was visiting us.
I told him, I said, dude, if you get into it and you pull that out, your life is going to change forever. Yeah. I said, and then you will go to a place where you will not have a gun, and you're always teasing and making fun, because I used to go train back then all the time.
Yeah.
I was coaching. And I told him, I said, I could coach you. He was tall and lanky, but he had no muscle at all. And he said, well, I don't need muscle. I have this, and I'm smart. So he's super smart gun guy. What's going to happen when you finally do use that? Because he was itching to use it on somebody. Just the way he was, it was sickening. I said, dude, one day you're going to pull that gun out. You're going to be on paper. You're going to screw up, and you're going to go to prison, and you're going to be around a bunch of guys that aren't going to give a shit about your smart, brain. They're going to beat you into oblivion and take everything from you. Well, I'll cross that bridge when I have to. I don't know. I don't know where he's at these days. I don't quit talking to him. Once he moved away from us, I never talked to him again. But you stop and you look at this guy, and you're thinking, you better hope that he does, that he figured it out.
Yeah.
So you have the really smart guy who thinks he's going to use his brain to get him out of everything. And then you have the spiritual person, which typically is a female. It really is.
Yeah.
And they know everything. They're living in the spirit world. And then you have basically like
especially if they've gotten a hold of any kind of Eastern philosophy or
they're like Stevie Nicks, Fajita Roundup.
Yeah.
So you got Stevie Nicks, you got the gun guy here, and then you have the physical guy who just lifts a lot of weights and works out and any he's agitated all the time, probably taking roids, and every time anybody says something that he doesn't agree with, he gets in their face, and then the thing ends because they're afraid of him. Until one day somebody's tougher and trains more than him, or has more, or gets the drop on him and knocks him out, or shoots him. So you have those three, types of people, but those are stereotypes, and they're stereotypes for a reason, because they do exist. Those people, one of them lives on their physicality, the brute, everything. They always end up dead or in prison, or something happens to them. Then you have the really smart guy, the intelligent guy, and at some point they always resort to vindictiveness and being sneaky and underhanded. I'm telling you, folks, 100%, dude. The bad traits of these people.
That's the only weapon that they have.
The only weapon that they have is the underhand. They're liars. They're sneaky. And they are intelligent, but they have to at some point resort to being an egg thief, because they can't go toe to toe with a brute guy. And the problem that they all have is they always mistake me for one of those people. They think, well, this guy's really smart, but I'm stronger than him. I'm bigger. I'm whatever. And then they're not. Or they resort to being, an underhanded little egg thief, and they have to lie and backstab and do whatever because they think I'm the brute guy. The truth of the matter is I'm well-rounded, and that's what I want for you. You have to be that. Don't fall into the trap of the namaste girl, the big buff guy that doesn't know how to do anything but that. You can't have a civilized conversation with them, because as soon as they stop winning the conversation, then they think they're going to beat you up. And then they get tested and they get burned. Then they become the gun guy, because they're all about pride. And these are all sins. It's based in sin, which is pride. The egghead, they do the same thing. They slink away and skulk away, but they'll get you back. They're going to try and hack into your computer, or they're going to do something underhanded and sneaky to even the score. Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Right. Or take over all the financial institutions and banking system
and education
and
entertainment and
Okay.
geopolitics.
Let's quit talking. But you see that's what they do. That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
And then the Namaste kid is over there. Y'all are both wrong. I'm living in another world, eating gobs of mushrooms.
Yeah. Just these extremes of humanity.
But it's very norm. It's become the norm.
I think it's also like based in laziness too, because it's like people will find maybe one aspect of their like mind, body, spirit that they're comfortable expanding, or maybe that they're strong in, and just commit to that, because it's just too much work to like, it's like if you're comfortable being a physical person, then you're going to commit to that, because that it's like you're used to that like the discomfort of like working out or something. But to use your mind, it's like it pulls you out of your comfort zone, so you just stay away from it. To be in the spirit pulls you out of your comfort zone, so you stay away from it. So like you can't just like commit to one aspect of like your nature. I mean, there's like three natures to you, and you have to nurture them all, or there's always going to be a void in you that you just can't seem to fill.
Yeah.
So
we got three people in here, and David says, I hate when people can't debate and they just resort to, I'll whoop your ass. Well, that's what they do. I mean, I've had people get in my face as big as I am. There are people that think, oh, he's just a big guy. And if he talks too intelligent, then he's probably just a big, smart guy. He probably doesn't know much, and then they end up getting scraped off the bottom of my boot. That's just what happens. My favorite scene in all of the Marvel comic universe is two scenes with Thanos. Thanos 1, where the girl's like, you took everything from me. That's Namaste Girl. And he slaps her and he's like, I don't even know who you are. She leaves it's Scarlet Witch, right?
Yeah.
I'm not into smacking women. I'm just saying it's like almost like
smacked her out of the movie.
Yeah, it's really kind of like it's symbolic, right?
Yeah. He
just smacks her and she goes flying off screen. You never see her again.
Yeah.
And then he says, I don't even know who you are. Like, you took everything from me. Like, he doesn't, she's a gnat.
Yeah.
And then when Hulk tries to to Hulk out, and he just goes boom and knocks him out.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that too. Because if you're really, really hyper intelligent, that intelligence will tell you you need to be strong and powerful to deal with people. You might want to learn how to use a firearm and use it proficiently, or a knife if you have to. Self-defense only, and only pull it out if you really have to. And that's I live and die by that motto. When necessary, right? And then you need to know how to defend yourself, because most fights, contrary to popular belief, we're not just down here shooting each other up like the Old West. Most fighting problem, it is fisticuffs. And, you're not using as much jujitsu as people would think. Maybe if you're a professional fighter, Brazilian or Japanese jiu-jitsu comes into play, but most fights don't end up like that because it's this thing called asphalt. So you're not going to want to roll around on the ground with somebody sniffing their butt on the asphalt. Your goal is to not be on that asphalt. So you need to learn how to do that, but you also need to have a spiritual connection. And for me, it's Christ. You need to have that spiritual connection. I'm going to lead into the show with this, and I'll tell you why, because there's a lot of bad things out there. We're walking around in an ocean of entities that are all around us, doing things, manipulating, trying to parasitize us, trying to control us, trying to destroy us. So you need to be grounded in the spirit and understand how it works. That's a very important thing. But the mind is the connection between the spirit and the body, right? And so you need to have a strong mind. Read. Learn multiple languages if you can. Some people, when I've given them that advice, they're like, how do I do that? I gave that advice to a friend of mine, Kenny, when we were young, and now he speaks 6 languages. Kenny's I don't like the term African-American. He's a black guy. I've been friends with him for years. And I told him, I said, you need to learn how to speak multiple languages. His girlfriend is from Taiwan, or she was. She's obviously, they're not together anymore as she was. But I mean, he's like, I need to learn how to speak, Asian. I said, that right there tells me you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. He said, how do I speak Taiwanese? I said, it's Chinese. He's like, well, why do they call it Taiwan? I explained to him the history of it. He's like, man, you're smart. I said, it's called reading, learning. Learn to build your mental capacity. What I mean by that is to be able to hold more information. Learn to memorize things. It is a part of intelligence. I heard Joe Rogan say the other day, he goes, I'm not smart, I just have a good memory. No, that's also intelligence, Joe. You're smart. Because if you have the mental capacity to withhold information, to hold that information, that is part of your IQ. Being intelligent isn't just memorization, though. You just parroting things back. You're not smart by doing that. You're smart by being able to hold that information. But there are other things that can help you with your intelligence. And never miss an opportunity to do math. The more it's a tool, your brain is, the more you use it, the sharper it gets. You sharpen it, with skills. Math, it was a very powerful subject for me. And so you'll realize, like, the front temporal lobe, a lot of times when people fight, they get into fights, they get to where they lose their ability for language and math. The right temporal lobe, if you get hit enough, you're not going to be able to do math. Same thing with the left. You have different parts of the brain that correspond to different things,
Mm-hmm.
So somebody says, Josh, sports are another distraction. Brent said, yeah, for the average person, I would say don't do it. Because most people, you're right about that, Rhinosaurus. Most people don't have the capacity to memorize basketball, baseball, football stats and understand players and all that other stuff and know about the real world. I'm not that person. You can challenge me on just about any subject. Sports is just one of the things that I am, up on.
But it's also kind of short-sighted, and like I've never really agreed with the sentiment that like bread and circuses don't matter. They absolutely matter. Like they anything that has that level of influence over millions of people you better be paying attention to it. You better know what it is.
That's why advertisers use it.
It's $1 billion industry that is in the minds of like millions of people in this country. So it's really kind of like mentally lazy to say, oh, it doesn't matter, it means nothing. What you mean is that you're not into it, and ultimately it shouldn't matter, but the fact is it does. You don't have to like it, but you do have to accept it, because this is the real reality, and we live in it whether we like it or not. We have to accept it. That's what we're about here.
And one of the things you can learn if you were to, there's a documentary I'm going to watch when I get some time. It's about Nolan Ryan. I watched Nolan Ryan pitch as a kid, and when you see him throw that ball, it's amazing. Baseball is an amazing sport, because mathematically it's almost impossible. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
A great hitter who batting average is like 330. That's like a great hitter. If it's approaching 300, that's a good hitter. And that's what's crazy about that, is that just hitting the ball like a third of the time and you're awesome.
You're like one of the greatest. And
when you're a pitcher like Nolan Ryan, being able to throw strike after strike, he threw so many strikeouts. What was his record of strikeouts? 7,000 or something like that? It was unbelievable. I mean, how many strikeouts? He's a strikeout king. But when you stop and look at like something like him or Tom Brady or Troy Aikman or one of these guys who was a very accurate passer or a very accurate pitcher, somebody that threw the ball, you start to see, like, by the laws of physics, it shouldn't even be that way. When you see someone like Peyton Manning, throw that ball and it drops, and just that's perfectly in someone, it's crazy.
And they're doing it subconsciously. They're using math.
Visualization.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy to throw a ball and have it hit a pinpoint target every time. You'd have to know that.
And in these
57-14 strikeouts.
5,714.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I knew it was some crazy number. I had it backwards. I said 75. It's 57. So you have these closers too, guys that were these awesome relief pitchers like Goose Gossage, Raleigh Fingers, and you sit there and you watch how they were able to just go in and shut people down, and you're just like, how do they do that? Like, they're good for 2 innings of just nothing. They obliterate people, and it's crazy. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Another sport that is, it's like if you're good at billiards. You remember Max, my good friend? Yeah. He was a professional billiards player, and I would watch him do things, and I'm just like, good grief, dude, that's unbelievable. I've never been
geometry.
It's geometry. He said he would have it visualized, and then he would execute it, and it would be crazy stuff.
It's the same thing.
Hockey's like that, though. And soccer too. They get this angle, and they hit the puck or the ball a certain way, kick it a certain way, and it goes in a certain way. And it's crazy how, when you see somebody take a penalty shot, by the laws of physics, they have all of the advantage, and then this goalie manages to block it.
Yeah.
The penalty shot in hockey or in soccer, because both of them are very similar, except one has a puck, one has a ball. It's crazy, dude. Like, you see these goalies like just blocking stuff. Like, what was his name? Belfour from the Stars.
I think so. Yeah.
Good grief, man! Watching that guy was amazing. I mean, he was an amazing goalie. The guy they had in the 90s, I think was it Eddie Belfour?
It's amazing both ways, because like
Eddie, they called him Eddie the Eagle.
It's a small puck about this size, and they're blocking
it. Blocking it
but
over
at the
and over
same time. It's a puck this size, and they're throwing it into this small net that the goalie's taking a big part of it. It's so hard though for both sides. Mm-hmm. And soccer, though, a good goalie is just invaluable. It's crazy, both sports. But anyways, enough of that. We've talked about sports enough. The point is that there is a place for sports, but let's put it this way, and it's a simple thing. If you know all of Jalen Hurts' stats, but you don't know history, and you don't understand economics, then I think you got your priorities backwards. Because I meet so many guys nowadays that just, you talk to them and they're like, they'll talk to you about the Eagles all day long. But if you talk to them about economics, and I was interviewing a guy the other day who's a big Eagles fan. And his wife was telling me all this stuff. She goes, let me tell you about, I'm talking to my husband. He gets on the phone. He starts talking to me. He goes, I know you're a Cowboys fan. He starts talking about the Eagles. Great guy. But I spent about an hour talking to him and his wife about economics and explaining to him how it worked. And he says, how do I learn these things? And I told him, I said, shout out to Jerome. You're a fun guy to talk to. No offense to you.
But and I told him this on the phone. I said, you gotta, you know, if you want to learn about investing, you have to understand about economics in the stock market. Otherwise, you're just following somebody, you're paying somebody to do it for you because they know how to do it, because that's what you don't even need that middle guy.
Yeah.
So he's saying he's going to take my advice, and you know, but I do have the capacity to know all these things, and it is only because I willed it. You can do it too. It's not something that it's exclusive just because somebody is smarter than you or whatever. Anybody could do it. Eddie Belfour, yeah, there you go. Scorpion knows. Scorpion knows everything about vampires. He knows everything about
Well, I think it's
sports.
important to be
Star Wars.
well-rounded in all
Star
things.
Wars,
Star
yeah.
Wars, yeah. I mean, like, I know a lot about comics, but I try to know about other stuff too, because it's important too.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
and you know,
being
people
too
would
focused on one thing, I think, is just, you know,
people would
too
say
simple.
knowing about comic books isn't a valuable skill, but that's not correct. Look at how much. If you look at comic books and trading cards, whether they're sports or non-sports, and I have both, the escalation of the value of these things is worth more than gold.
Yeah.
Like literally, the vintage stuff, it's unbelievable how valuable it is, how much it skyrockets. You're not going to see anything sell for like $12.5 million that weighs like less than a freaking quarter. You know what I mean? Pound for pound, vintage cards are worth way more than gold or even rhodium. The Mickey Mantle rookie card that sold for $12.5 million. I know the former pitcher from the Cleveland Indians, he owns one that's a mint 10. Tom Candy. I don't know if he still does or not, but I know he owned one. The Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky, he used to own. Now the guy that's the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Yeah. Gretzky used to own that Honus Wagner. His card was worth so much because that card, they pulled it out of circulation because Wagner didn't believe, in a time where everybody was into tobacco. Yeah. He didn't want kids buying tobacco, which they could buy back then.
Way ahead of his time.
To look for his cards. You know, he says, I don't want them doing that. I don't want them, you know. And they're like, what? So what if a kid smokes? And this is a 12-year-old talking, right? He's like, I don't think this is correct. You will not find a Honus Wagner. And then 100 years later, people are, you know, selling their entire lives to get one. Way to go, Honus. Look what you did.
Hope you're happy.
Yeah, hope you're happy.
Deprive those children of their God-given right to smoke.
And work at an early age.
Yeah. The children yearn for the mines.
Like on Zoolander. The age-old right of children in the workplace is in danger.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo. Yeah. Kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia. But you have these different types of cards, and a lot of times people will be like, well, I'm into this kind of a card. You don't understand that. And I'm like, you want to make a bet? I mean, I can throw Pokemon with the best of them, dude. Pokemon. Right? Pokemans. No. But if you ever get the Charizard, there's a $330,000 box of Pokemon out there. I know. Trust me. It's unbelievable. And just that Charizard is worth like $400,000. They had a chase box at one time for the 1952 pack of a wax pack of whatever. And supposedly it was the pack that Mickey Mantle, you could pull a Mickey Mantle or a Willie Mays out of it. If you were to win that, it was in those TriStar boxes a few years ago. And I was at a card show, and this guy, he was buying a bunch of those from this guy. And he said, what would you do if you pulled it? He asked four of us that were standing there. And I told him, I said, I would not open that pack because the chances of tampering with that thing and resealing it, those wax packs, they're notorious for that, is so high. Because do you really think a corporation is going to take a chance and not get $12 million? They're going to put a $12 million card in a box and let you pull it? Are you out of your freaking mind?
Yeah.
No way. No way. You never heard about anybody pulling that pack and opening it and finding a Mickey Mantle because it will not happen. So what you need to do is take that pack and go and take it to Beckett or to PSA and get it graded. And then that pack will become worth like, $1 million or something. I'd say somewhere between $500,000 and they grade the pack and just have it slabbed because you're not going to pull that.
Yeah.
If you open that pack, you just, it's, what you might get tens of thousands of dollars out of it, maybe if you're lucky, but you're not going to get that Mickey Mantle. You won't get the Willie Mays either. Those cards are worth millions of dollars, especially with Mays dying. I mean, it's over. So anyway, that's cards, that's comic books, that's everything. We talked about everything. So here we go. Let's get started here. And I don't care. You can timestamp this if you want to. I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter. Shane Phillips says, Wolf speaking some truth about games. Magic the Gathering is one of those TCGs that have insane market. Oh, yeah. Dude, Magic the Gathering is unbelievable. One of my friends, my old barber, he was a Marine Corps barber. Great guy. He was into that Magic, boy. He had Magic the Gathering, and then he started collecting the Star Wars cards. And I was there. He pulled out I want to say it was a Vader. It was one of the Vader Chrome, whatever, but it was worth like $400. I think it's worth like $2,000 now. I think it was him that pulled that out, if I remember correctly. I've seen so many card breaks, dude, that, and it really is gambling is what it is. You're buying a box of cards and you're gambling that you're going to pull.
Yeah.
I remember before OJ became a murderer, I pulled an OJ Simpson out of an old box of cards. I got lucky. I pulled 2 OJ rookie cards. And then in another pack, an old pack that I bought 6 of those wax packs. And I'll tell you what it was. It was at a card show, and I was young, and I pulled the Walter Payton rookie card. And that guy, he got freaking mad, dude. It was at the Chariot Inn here in Austin. It doesn't exist anymore. That dude was pissed. You could hear him across the convention hall yelling at his son. And I guarantee you they had already snooped through those packs, and it fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
His son probably didn't check that pack. And I bought them for $10 a piece. Now, you got to remember, this is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I had saved up because I had mowed lawns all summer, and the card show would show up at the Labor Day weekend at the Chariot Inn. And I would save up my money all summer. And I bought $60, 6 packs, and I hit the Walter Payton rookie card. I still got it. It's graded. It's a 9. And well, you talk about, I took my cards up to Arlington to have them graded at Beckett. And I said, I'm going to wait here. And the guy goes, well, you're going to be waiting a long time. It'll be a few days. I said, I'll be back. Where do you live? Austin. He goes, you're going to come back? I said, yeah, I'm not letting you mail that crap.
Yeah.
No. We already made that mistake with the what was that card we lost? And I promise we'll get started. The Dragon Ball Z, when he died, what's his name?
Toriyama.
Toriyama. When Toriyama died, and I bought those Dragon Ball Z cards, I bought one. It's now worth $500 that quick. And it was last summer. Me and Stefan, we bought one for $300, and it's already gone up. And somebody stole it out of the FedEx thing, and we never got our money back from FedEx. No, I'll drive to Arlington, no problem. So, anyways, here's what we're going to talk about here. We're not talking about cards and comics and all this other stuff, but
way to go, chat. Got us into that.
Yeah, chat. Keep on chat.
Way to go. Hope you're happy.
Hope you're happy.
Got us distracted.
Got us all turned around.
Discombobulated.
Somebody says I gave a friend nice card. You got the Brett Favre rookie card. Which Brett Favre rookie card? You talking about the one where he's sitting on the bench with the Falcons? Is it the one where he's had the headset on or whatever? I believe that was a 1991 card. I think that was what was that, a 1990? Was that an Upper Deck card? Anyways, so where are we at here? So what we're talking about tonight, we had a woman who messaged me a while back, and I was going to do a show all about vehicles and ghosts and things and vehicles. And her story, I thought, you know what? It's intriguing, scary, but also there was so much more to it. And so when I started talking to her and her husband about this, and I had said something about it on one of the shows that we were going to talk about this. So I'm not going to say her name out of respect for her. So her name, we're going to say something, we're going to call it Tanya. That's what we're going to call her. Her husband don't give a crap. He's just like, he's retired. And he's like, I don't care. But she works for a school district, and she's actually a school administrator for a high school. So out of respect, I'm not, because she doesn't want to be known as the werewolf lady, in her own words. And I'm like, why not? Are you saying that Wolf Boy is not a good nickname? Huh? because I can attest that it is. I love it. I love it. I tell people all the time, my clients, I'm like, please don't call me Mr. Turner. Call me Wolf Boy, the security profession. I demand it. I demand it from my clients. I wear it like a badge of honor. All right. I'm the Wolf Boy. All right.
Mr. Long is my father. Call me Mushu.
Mr. Long is my father. Mushu and Wolf Boy here. All right. That's what we're doing here. And Flaquito. So here's what happened. So Tanya reaches out to me and she says, she said it again. She's like, I know you talked a little bit about my story. She's like, yeah, my son told me, but I want to know if you're going to tell it. And I said, okay, I will. I said, I'll do it on Wednesday. This was last Wednesday. She goes, well, it is Wednesday. I said, yeah, well, next Wednesday. So here we are. Tanya, hope you're happy. I'm going to tell your story. All right. So they moved into a house, and I'll give you the state. This happened in Illinois. They moved into a house. And a lot of times people move into a house and they'll be like, well, I think it's the house. I think it's the house. Whatever was there, it was something that was in the detached garage. They found a Ouija board. They didn't find the planchette, but they found a Ouija board that was they had a car covering, and when her husband took the car covering off, there was like a workbench and a few other things and some tools and a Ouija board. And he goes, oh, look at this. Well, he said when he was young, he didn't care. He's like, I played with these when I was a kid. Nothing spooky ever happened to me. But he did tell me my brother became possessed. So I said, so then it happened to you. Something bad happened to you. And he goes, not really. It didn't really happen to me. It happened to him. He's like, and he said it kind of snarkily. So I'm like, so his name is Dan. So I'll just say, Dan, what happened to your brother? He says, well, he claims that he was possessed. He said that it was horrible for him. He said, I was a kid. I was like 7 years old. He was 12. And him and my other older brother, who was 13, they were really close. He's like, I was born further apart from them. So I didn't grow up with them like I did with my little cousins that lived down the road. We were all friends. And they were bullies. And he said that when they started playing with this Ouija board and they started having problems, he's like, I'm not going to lie. I was actually kind of rooting for the evil spirit to do something to them. So here we are years later, like 40 something years later. And he says, now we're facing something that I never thought would happen to me. He said that we opened up that the car cover, and he said it fit his car, so he started using it. His wife's SUV. Oh boy, what a mistake. He says maybe it was the car cover, maybe it was because of what was underneath the car cover. He goes, my wife took it and promptly threw it in the trash. She's a Christian. He says, so am I, but she takes it a lot more serious. By his own admission, he's not as serious about it. Hang on one second.
I was reading.
So by his own admission, he's not as into it. He's not as serious about it. And so what ends up happening, he goes upstairs. They don't think nothing of it. But that very night that he takes that cover and yanks it off of that Ouija board, he said, we got a visitor. And then he turned it over to his wife, and his wife began to tell me the whole story. Because she had told me in an email a little bit about what had happened to her. Now, she's not a big rabid fan listener. She's she listens to different shows or whatever, but she thought, and thankfully so, that I am good at telling the story. So I was glad that she was willing to bring it to me. Hang on one second. All right. So she said, I listened to different shows. I watched different shows. She goes, and I couldn't help but think, I would love to have this guy retell my encounter. So it was between me and Mr. Ballin, and Mr. Ballin doesn't do a lot of paranormal stuff. He does some. So thank you for bringing it to me. And Ballin is a huge, huge channel. Like he's got like millions of people, nowhere near like him. But this is also not my full-time job. Okay. So sorry. I end up getting this encounter and I read it, and it is a fascinating story. And at first, I just thought this would be a good story to talk about with the others about vehicles and things like that. But I can't help myself. I had to reach out and say, was there more to this? And she says, oh, yeah, there's a lot more. That was just one thing that happened. So we go back to the beginning. Instead of having to tell the story and then go back and do a prequel, right? We'll just start from the beginning of what happened. She says, when I was young, I had a few things happen. She said that she lived in a house that was haunted for about 3 years. Her dad worked at a power plant, and her mother was an educator, and her mother brought home some artifacts from a fair. And she said that they had a few things happen. She saw a full-bodied apparition with her 2 sisters and her brother that looked like a native. And she said that it was one of these weapons that was brought into her house that she thinks there was an old broken up weapon that was a Lakota weapon. It was one of those big rock looking things. This is the way she described it. It was strapped into a piece of wood, pretty sturdy, but they use it to crack people's skulls, basically. And she thinks that it was the spirit was looking for this particular artifact. And once it was out of the house, but it took a friend of theirs from their church that was pretty much like a psychic that didn't call herself that, but saw what it was and says, you have a disembodied human spirit in this house and it's causing problems because you have its artifacts. And it was buried with them. And she said, I don't know how they got separated from the body, but this belongs with this person and it is very much tied to that person and they're living in like a purgatory. And so this stone weapon needs to be put back where it came from. She gave it back to the people that she had gotten it from. And it was never supposed to be in their house for any long length of time. But here's what's crazy. Get this. The person that had her take them home, that person had gone to the hospital. About 2 months later, that person was out of the hospital and they were mowing their yard and they had a heart attack and passed away. So she ended up with it permanently and didn't know where it belonged. So she took it to the county and turned it over to them, and the rest is history. That guy was supposed to go back and get it, right? So you end up with a haunting. So she says, I'm not unfamiliar with this. This spirit became very wrathful, and it began to do things in their house. One of the things that it did was send her dog flying across the room and hitting a wall. So she says, I know that spirits can be very evil. They can do very, very bad things. And she says, and this one definitely was PO'd. But after that, everything calmed down and the house went back to, well, normal, I guess. This particular incident that happened when they moved into this house, she said our children were really young. She's like, and we were only in the 5th year of our marriage and we had saved and saved and saved. And now it was time for us to move into our dream house. Sounds like the beginning of one of those, a haunting, right?
Yeah.
They thought they had found their dream house. They effed around and found out. It always does that, right? They didn't realize they were sharing the house with a demon.
Yeah.
And then all this wackiness ensues, right? That's kind of what happened here. And I'm not trying to make light or be funny, but it does get kind of spooky, so buckle up. So the first encounter was that night after they found the Ouija board. She's like, I'm not stupid. She goes, my husband. The shirt, I was stupid, right? She goes, she takes it. He admitted it. He was like, hey, I thought it was cool. I was just going to find a planchette and let's get to town, But she was like, no, we're not doing that. She throws it in the trash. And then middle of the night, he's coming out of the shower. And she's laying there in the bed and she's reading Reader's Digest, which a lot of people read Reader's Digest back then. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm more of a TV guide guy myself, but he's pretty funny, even with the self-deprecation. He's kind of funny, but he's coming out of the bathroom and Dan's like, he's like, and he's like, literally got the toothbrush in my mouth. I got a towel. He's like, and I see like just standing there right in front of me. The only way he could describe it was a very, very hairy man that was like down on all fours, but kind of leaned himself upward and was squatted down. He's like, and this thing, he said thing, was looking at me. It had like a grayish, black fur or hair all over it, but it was a man. It was like a human, right? And he's just like, he freaks out. He screams. He goes, I dropped my towel and nearly choked on my toothbrush. He's like, I'm like, what in the freaking hell? He goes, I don't cuss. He's like, but I cussed. He said, and I'm like, what the F is that? And she looks over and she drops the Reader's Digest. And then they look at each other, they look back, and it's gone. It was very brief. He's like, but we both saw it. She saw it a little shorter time than he did. Big Dan goes back in the bathroom, freaking out. She runs in behind him, and she's like, are you okay? And he's like, I don't know what that was. He's like, he had never seen a spirit of any kind, but that was there, and then it wasn't. So it had to be some kind of a spirit or a ghost, right? And so we got into this conversation about what a ghost is and what constitutes a ghost or a haunting. We don't really know. But he said this thing was terrifying. He said, and he had his daughter's friends, her daughter's friend, little friend or whatever that she grew up with. They became really good friends, these people. They lived catty corner to them for years. They were their neighbors. The woman claimed to be able to see. She claimed she had second sight. Her grandmother was gypsy, according to her, and she settled down with a guy, and she said that she literally went into the house and had chest pains and had to go to the hospital. And they found that she had a clogged artery, and lucky for her, even though she was young, she was in her 40s. They're about 20 years older than them. And they had children later in life. But he said that this woman, they found something that could have been really bad for her later on. So they were able to clear it out and put a stent, do all this stuff, whatever. And he said that she would never go into their house. She said, you need to do a cleanse and you need to get rid of whatever's in there. He started doing projects on the weekends when he was off. And he said, I was off every other weekend. And he said, and I was always in the detached garage. But he said that almost immediately something was wrong. He started noticing tools were being moved around and things were not where he would leave them. He would leave something somewhere and he would find it in the den. At one time, he even found one of the drill bits he was looking for in his bed. So he knew that something was wrong. Something was not right. And then at night, he would hear scratching on the wall. He goes, my wife would roll over and go to sleep. He goes, and I was living a nightmare. He goes, and and I hear this is usually like a woman that's going through this, but it was the guy. He's like, we're on the second floor and I hear a tapping on the glass. Like I hear something knocking on the glass. He goes, and I go out there. He's like, and there's this black bird. He's like, this is one of the weirdest things that happened. He was giving me the highlights, right? There was a black bird that was flapping its wings and moving around like a hummingbird. But it was the size of a freaking raven, and it was black.
That's weird.
And I told him, I said, crows, ravens, they don't do that. He goes, they don't do that.
Yeah, they don't hover like that.
No, it's hot in here. Are you hot? I'm just turning.
Yeah, it is kind of hot.
So yeah, John Maddox says, raven nevermore. So this raven, and then he's telling his wife about it the next day, and she's just looking at him like, She's not really buying into this. She did see the hairy man that was on all fours. So she says, well, I guess anything's possible. She rolls over to go to sleep. He rolls his way. He said, we had gotten into this really bad routine, which is really bad for marriages. You should roll over and give your partner your back. If you're both doing that, you're not communicating. The thing began to tap on the glass. She throws the cover off and she's like, what was that? And Dan's like, go look. She goes out there to look. She opens the curtain, and it's not a raven that he saw in broad daylight. This is nighttime, right? It's an owl. The curious thing about this owl is that it was all black. I don't know of any owls that are all black. And so then they had a debate at breakfast. They're like, kids went off and got on the bus, whatever. And she says, Dan, what you saw must have been that bird. That must have been the black owl looking thing. He's like, no, what I saw was a raven. Crow-like bird. And she says, are you sure? Then he says, we're arguing semantics. My words, because he said, we're arguing about nothing. I said, you're arguing semantics. You're getting caught up in the minutia. And I said, this is what it is. Either way, ravens and owls and crows don't fly around like a hummingbird.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some debate about what it was. She saw that bird. He said that he saw that bird too, but the first bird looked different than that bird. Mhm.
I just looked up how rare are black owls. It's 1 in every 100,000.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's a very rare thing. Yeah. It does exist, but I don't know of any that I've ever heard of anybody see. And I don't know if that part of Illinois if Southern Illinois would have them. But he says this is what ended up happening. He says, I didn't believe for a second that was a normal thing. He goes, and I believe that it was tied to that thing that we saw that day. He said, then one day, my oldest child, who was only 5 at the time, who was just out of, going into kindergarten, the other 2 are toddling. He's like, and we're getting them going, whatever, to go to school or whatever. And he's like, I'm sorry. The youngest is 5. She was just out of toddling when they moved in. The oldest was like 8 years old or whatever. And he said, my oldest, who was now 8 years old, this is another incident that happened. This was about a year after they'd moved in. The incidents went on and on and on for about a year, but it didn't get really bad until about a year in. He goes, that's when it got really bad. My child started to see things. She was on the stairs and she screams at the top of her lungs. He goes outside to see, or go outside the room to see what it is. The wife was at a Tupperware party. He was watching the children. He goes outside and he sees the child there, frozen in fear. And this is something he goes, I will never forget as long as I live. She's got 2 handfuls of something coming out the sides of her hands. It was red. He said there was this like goo. He goes, and I thought it was like some sort of strawberry jam or jelly or something. And she couldn't tell me what it was. My 8-year-old comes running out of her room to see, because this is a 5-year-old, right? She's the oldest. She comes out and she's helping him with this child, which is the youngest, right? I might have screwed that up. So the youngest, right? So she's holding something in her hands. The oldest says, her name is Emily. She's like, Emily, let me see what you have. And pulls and there's chunks of what looks like at first like strawberry preserves. He's like, you could smell it. It was blood.
Oh.
And he goes, and that looked like in her hands, like little, like red pieces of meat. And one of them looked like a little heart, like an organ or something belonging to a very small animal.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh my gosh, what is this? And so he takes her into the bedroom, just lifts her up like a suitcase, and takes her, and he goes, I wash her off, clean her off, get her, whatever. My other oldest daughter is there, and she's just like, Dad, there's something going on in this house. And then she proceeds to tell him a bunch of stuff that had happened to her over the last year. Good kid, kept a lot of it to herself, though, because she didn't want her mom and dad to go under a bunch of stress, because she'd heard them arguing about money and other things. It's a new house, and they're a young couple, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for everything. And on a teacher's salary, but he's got a good job, right? And his wife is struggling to try to become, at that time, a principal in middle school. Eventually, she became an administrator in high school, which is where she's at now. But at the time, she was struggling. They were struggling with financial difficulties and marriage problems, whatever people go through. And he said that it was a very, very day-to-day struggle to make ends meet and to keep everything. And the children were very good. They weren't causing a lot of problems, but now things began to change. This was the first real thing that happened to his children. He said, but it wouldn't be the last. He couldn't figure out what that was or where the child got it. She couldn't remember. Like after he talked to her, it was like she was like kind of just staring off into space in the bathroom. And it was years later when he finally found out what it was. So we fast forward to a couple years down the road. His wife is driving. A bunch of weird stuff was happening in between there, but we'll hit the main talking points. And she is driving down the road, a desolate drive, going about 2 hours to her sister's for a baby shower. Her sister was pregnant, her youngest sister. And she picked about halfway, she picked up the middle sister. She's the oldest sister. She picked up the middle sister, and they were driving to go and meet in another town, her youngest sister, for the baby shower. On the way, when the thing is over, the party's over, whatever, she goes to go back. Her sister says, you know what? I'm going to take a shorter route and I'm going to go with my friend who's from the same town as her. So you can just hit the highway and go blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, she stops at a gas station and she says, to this day, I don't know why I did it, but I took a turn to go kind of the scenic route. And she said it was summertime and it was not dark yet. It was like 6, 7 o'clock. And, baby shower had been going on all day. So she was kind of tired and she thought about staying at her sister's and taking a nap. But she's like, I want to get home, see my kids. They were with the dad and he had taken them to the park or whatever. And so they had a day and she said, you know what? I'm just going to spend the day with my sisters. Well, when the other sister decided to go her way, she's like, I'm just going to take this back road. The vehicle that she was in had one other time before this incident, something had happened very similar, but this incident took the cake. And I think I've told you about this part, Anthony. We discussed it with Nellie. She gets about an hour into this drive, which is a very beautiful drive, and it's dusk. It's not quite dark yet, but it's also about 35-minute longer drive down a desolate back road. And she had to use the restroom. She's looking for a restroom, and she's like, we're not like guys. You can't just pull over and move on the side of the road. She goes, I have to find somewhere to pull in, So she goes, I take a right down into this country road, and I get far enough down, she goes, and I'm about to stop. She goes, and I look up in my rearview mirror, and imagine this. This is a road where there's no traffic. Nobody's going to see you. She thought about that. She's like, man, I hope nobody pulls up, tries to. And, by her own words, she says, when I was young, I was attractive. She goes, I had a lot of guys that would hit on me, She's like, and my husband didn't appreciate me. So I cheated on him multiple times. I'm joking. She didn't. She never said that. She didn't say that. I'm joking. I'm kidding. She's like, I'll show him. I'll teach him. I'll be one of those teachers that's with the high school guys. They never show the kid that does it. They just, even though they're 17, they want to brag to all their friends. And everybody's like, I would have been happy to do that when I was a teenager. Like the guys always say that. Mm-hmm. But, there's only so many hot teachers. All right. Stop it. Stop lying. You wouldn't happen to you. So anyway, she's pulls on the side of the road and she's just like, I don't know what the heck was going on. She goes, and I started feeling like dizzy and pressure in my head. I felt this vertigo. She's like, I look up in the mirror and I see this, for lack of a better term, a black-haired werewolf. She goes, it just looked like a wolf. She's like, and it leaned forward and opened its mouth and you could see all of its teeth. She's like, the teeth were unnatural. They were not like fangs. You have the 2 fangs on top, 2 fangs on bottom, mm-hmm. from like a wolf. She said it was all jagged teeth with humongous fangs. And there were like 2 sets of fangs on top, 2 sets of fangs on bottom, and then these piranha teeth. She said it was the most nightmarish thing she'd ever seen in her life. And she was looking at it in the rearview mirror. And she goes, it was not some quick thing. It was not some really quick thing where she's like, oh, and she looks back and it was gone. She's like, I stared at it, looked it in the eye, and it leaned forward. She goes, and it had a hand, and it went up, and it put its hand on my shoulder. She goes, I ripped it loose. She's like, I was wearing this like blue dress, and it tore it partway off, and I fell out of the car, the SUV. She's like, I got up, I stumbled backwards, I fell into the ditch. She's like, and I'm looking at this in the car. I see it. And she goes, I look around, and she's like, there's nothing there, nothing around, nowhere. But she says, I see this thing in the back seat, and it had crawled up to the front seat. I saw this big tail moving around in the back seat. The head was in the front, and it kind of whipped its head around and looked at her, like it was getting out of the vehicle. She's like, just then I see this vehicle coming down the road, and it's an old beat up pickup truck. She's like, and I look back and I see it's still there. This is not no figment of my imagination. It's an actual being. And so she jumps out. This was really messed up. She jumps out in front of this truck, and the truck doesn't even slow down. She says, I see the driver looking at me, and he's kind of like, squinting his eyes, and then he looks over and he sees this. She's convinced he saw it too. Mm-hmm. He sees this creature, so he guns it. And she jumps out of the way of this truck, and he just keeps going. some old redneck. You know, he was just whatever. I'm not stopping. You're on your own, lady. There's a freaking werewolf right there. I'm not going to help you. Literally just kept going. Did not stop. At this point, she goes, I fall back into the ditch. I get up and I look, and she goes, and I'm like this. I'm like on all fours. She goes, and I'm crawling up to look. She's like, I'm looking around. I don't see this thing anywhere. It's not in my car anymore. She's like, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to run to the vehicle, get in it. And she didn't tell me about her restroom problem at that point. So I asked, I said, Tanya, what happened? She tells me, well, I think you're a smart guy. You know what happened. I went ahead and did it. I was, she's like, I don't remember doing it. She's like, but it happened. It did. I released. It was, you know. So I was like, oh, I'm not the only one who's had a werewolf make him pee. In my defense, I thought it was a Caucasian shepherd, but still, the point.
I had to go.
Close enough.
And then I didn't have to go. Very simple.
I was there.
Moral of the story:
Cut to peeing my pants.
make sure you pee before you get on the road, just like your parents always told you.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that's going to happen to you.
Oh man, Lawrence says he noped out. Yeah, he probably. You know, I always wonder about that. The guy just, you know, oh, there's a woman waving me down. Oh, there's a werewolf. He's just gonna run her over.
He's probably tweaking and thought it was a hallucination.
He's like, you know,
I got to
Time
stop
to
with the
just-
bathtub crank.
I can't do this. I gotta go. You know, he's just, you know, whatever. Lori Duncan says I would pee my pants too. Bro, yeah, you know, it happens.
There'd be no shame in peeing your pants at that point. I
That'd
don't
be the
care.
least of your work.
I would
Well-
tell everybody, yeah, I pissed all over my pants. And what? And what? about it?
Anthony pulled over. He got out, put him on the ground, and peed on him some more.
Yeah,
He just peed on him and put his initials
I
on
had to
him.
show my
Yeah.
dominance.
yeah. I had to mark my territory.
You belong to me.
I
Yeah.
got to show my dominance in these pants.
These are my pants. There are many like it, but these are mine. This pair is mine.
MCP
Let
pants.
me pee all over it.
Okay, so she ends up looking at this vehicle. She's like, and it's almost dark. And I'm thinking, where did this monster go? How did it get into my vehicle? She goes, and all these thoughts are going through my head. And she's like, and finally I come to the conclusion, John Maddox says that Oklahoma plates be eating you. And that's what it was. So she looks, and we're not trying to make fun of it, but it is a terrifying thing. But she's looking at the vehicle and she's like, I am out here in the middle of nowhere by myself in a place I've never been. I'm not familiar. And there is a monster that just crawled out of my SUV. But she figured that it has to be something spiritual, because how did it get in the back? But she's also torn because she thinks it's physical, because it was, right? So what does she do? She crawls onto the road. She's like, there ain't another vehicle coming. She stands up. She goes, and I'm standing there. And she goes, and I look at my vehicle and I'm like, you son of a bitch, I'm not going to let you scare me. And she says, I did what I had not done in the last year and a half, which all this stuff was going on. And she says, I prayed. I said, Christ, help me. She said, God, send angels to protect me. She goes, and I started breathing. She's like, and I felt good. I felt redeemed. I felt refreshed. She's like, and I took off and I just ran into the vehicle and I just closed the door and I looked in the rearview mirror. There was nothing there. She's like, I backed it up, turned around, and I got out of there. She's like, I get onto the main road and then I find the nearest exit to get onto the highway. I get onto the highway. No more scenic route for me. She's like, I'm crying. She's like, and my mascara is just running down into my face. She goes, I could not stop crying. Eventually she gets to a gas station. She pulls in. She's too embarrassed to get out because she's defecated in her pants using, you know, well, in her dress, put that way. She said, I had a spare change of clothes. So I finally got the courage up. I grabbed them. I ran in there and I put some pants on. She's like, I get back in my car and I can't stop crying. She said, I believe in God sending people as angels to give you a good word. She said she hears it on her window. She looks up, she sees this blonde-haired woman and this other guy standing there. She rolls the window down and she says, look, I don't know you, But she goes, I'm very devout in my faith. She said, God wanted me to tell you that you're fine. You're going to be fine. And then she walked into the store and she was just stunned. She said, this wasn't like an angel. This was an actual person. She went into the store and she saw the woman buying coffee, and the woman waved at her, and she had her husband there with her. So she went back out into her car and she sat there, and the woman walked by and she says, you're going to be fine. And gave her a cold water and said, you're going to be okay. She's like, I don't know what you saw. I don't know what just happened to you. She goes, but you need to get home and you need to bring God into your house. She goes, and don't let go. She goes, her hands were warm. And the man that was there put his hand on my shoulder and he was praying. She's like, I'd never experienced anything like that. She goes, all the way home, I was calm after what had just happened to me. She goes, I get home and my husband and the kids are there, and he's got this Bible that he had ordered. It's like a comic book Bible. And he's reading it to the children, and they're like, Mom, hey. She said, our house was calm for about 2 months. She's like, and then we stopped praying, stopped doing things together as a family, and just kind of when our, life happens, right? It just grinds you down, and then you stop being faithful. Next thing you know, she goes, my sister's coming up to visit. She had the baby, she goes, and it had been a couple months, and we had a little incident, and then another month, another little incident. By the 4th month, and this was after the child had been born, a couple weeks after she came to visit, whatever. She said that it was crazy. My mother, she's like, and my dad, everybody's, oh, there's a new baby, the youngest has now had a baby. All the other kids had babies, so there were all these grandkids bouncing around. They had a little get together. They had a little bouncy castle house, whatever. She says, I am out there. Oh, this part's creepy. She's like, I am out there watching. I'm watching the kids. She goes, and in the corner, I see a man. She's like, shaggy hair. She's like, and she started kind of trying to, she's like, how do I describe this? She goes, you ever seen Charles Manson? I was like, yeah, I've seen pictures of the crazy guy. And she's like, imagine him, but more like, he looks more, like good looking, like a handsome version of Charles Manson.
Yeah.
I said, like Ted Bundy. She goes, yeah, but better looking than him, but psychotic looking. She's like, and I see this guy in the corner of the bouncy house, and I'm like, and he's all hairy. She's like, and then I realized that's the guy that I saw in the house that day, and the first night we were there with my husband, Dan. And she's like, I start freaking out. And my other sister, Elizabeth, I shouldn't say her name, but Liz, she's there. That doesn't matter. But she says, Liz is there with me. And she's like, what's going on? And she's like, Liz, there's a man in the corner and before her sister could even respond, this is not the one that had the baby. This is the middle child. They both go in there and start trying to get the children out, and they're grabbing the kids one by one and taking them out. And she's like, and of course there's always one. And she goes, my nephew Cody, he's very defiant. He's like, no. He starts kicking. She said that her brother's wife never would let him spank or discipline this kid. So he was very unruly. Finally, they get him. And Liz is like, sis, where there's nobody. We got like 10 kids out of here. Where's this man? There's no man. She's like, at that point, I watched him sit there in the corner wearing like these old cutoff shorts, with no shirt on. He was just hairy, but his hands and his feet were not, and his face was not. But the rest of his body was covered in hair, like dark, coarse hair. And she says, sis, I'm telling you, I saw a man in the back of that bouncy castle. And she says, okay, well, we got all the kids out. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. You remember they threw the Ouija board away, right? Well, they go into the detached garage, and she's there with her brother-in-law. And Huey is the brother-in-law. And Huey says, he's like, I didn't know you had a Ouija board. And it's got the planchette and everything. And they're messing with it with him and one of her other brother-in-laws. And her brother. And they're all there. And her husband's just kind of standing there with a drink in his hand. And he's just like talking away to her sister and to the dad. And she's looking at her husband, and Dan's like not even paying attention. And she's like doing this. And he finally walks over and he looks and he starts staring at it. Then he goes, "Oh, this thing was thrown away. 100%. And I said, "Is it possible that maybe it didn't get taken away with the trash?" I mean, that's possible, right? I mean, it is.
Mhm.
She's like, "No way, no way." She's like, "It was in the trash." She goes, "And I made sure that morning when the trash people came, they got it, they took it away." No way. She goes, "And where did the planchette come from?" So she asks her brother, she's like, "Where did you get this?" And he tells her, he's like, "Well, Hugh saw it right over there. It was, underneath that, it was sticking out underneath that tarp." She goes, "That's a car cover." That night, after everybody, they took it, and she says, "I got to take this." And she took it and threw it away, and everybody's like, "Whoa, whatever. Oh, you're scared of the spookies." Her brother-in-law was teasing her. He's kind of an a-hole, according to what she told me. But she's like, "I love him, but he can be, kind of obnoxious." Threw it away. That night he calls and says, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I made fun of you, whatever, if you, for whatever reasons," because he kept kind of teasing her about it. She said, as soon as we get off the phone, she's like, his number shows up on.
Someone at the door. Sounded like it.
You didn't hear those? Hear that footsteps?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded like knocking or footsteps. Like a thump.
Yeah, it sounded like someone bumped into the front door.
Or like opened it and closed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's locked, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. We don't got, So that was weird. So, anyways, it's like he calls back. She looks at the caller ID and she sees that he is not done talking. Obviously, he had something else to say. So she answers. She's like, "Yeah, Hugh." And he's like, there's this noise, and it's like a weird, like a tapping, like like that. And she's like, "Hugh," and there's nothing. Then she calls back, and Hugh answers the phone. He's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Did you just call me?" And he's like, "No." She goes, "Maybe I called by accident." But then he goes and he looks, and there's no call. He didn't call. She's like, "You just called me." And he's like, "I don't know what that was. It wasn't me." So he hangs up, and her husband says, "I've been getting these calls, and that's that noise. It makes like this weird, sounds like a rattlesnake,
Mhm.
but like more pronounced." And she's like, "That's not the first one I got either. There was a person that she works with at school. One of her best friends is a teacher, and she and her were going to get coffee one morning because her friend was going through a bunch of weird stuff. She went over to her friend's house to help her move a few boxes, go through some stuff that she was going to be able to use for school because the friend was going on maternity leave." She's like, "We're in the friend's garage, and my friend's phone rings from a number that she doesn't recognize." She's like, "But the weird thing was I did. That number was my sister's number. And it was at the time where my sister was having her daughter. She was pregnant and she'd gone into labor, and the phone rang to my friend that I worked with, which was weird. When her friend answered the phone, she was like, 'Hello,' and she heard this weird like like somebody was like, making this guttural noise from their throat. I can't do it, but she said that she looked at the phone. She's like, 'I don't recognize this number.' When she looked at it, she's like, 'That's my sister's number. How in the hell did that happen?' When they went inside the house, they see this black shadow that looked like the shadow of a woman walk across the kitchen and cut right through the island in the kitchen, and then go from the kitchen into the dining room into the den. She's like, 'We both witnessed it.' She's like, 'This thing had followed me to my friend's house.' She's like, 'I told my friend, has this ever happened?' She says, 'No, I've never had any of this kind of stuff happen ever.' At her house, there was this shadow creature thing that sometimes it looked like a man, sometimes it looked like a woman, but the man that they would see, they saw it 3 different times, had this shaggy hair down to his shoulders. It was a dude. So she couldn't tell if it was a woman or a man. The husband, Dan, saw something that looked like a woman because he saw breasts, and it was black. Whenever he witnessed this creature the first time when he saw it in the vehicle, it had been covered by that particular cover. He adjusts his mirror, and when he took his hand away, he sees this guy lean up, and then he jumps out of the car, and there's nothing there. It was a guy that looked like the Charles Manson dude.
Mhm.
The first time that she saw something was not in the rearview mirror on the way back from Southern Illinois, or Northern Illinois. She was not. It wasn't. That's not what she saw the first time. The first time she saw something that looked like a man sitting in the back seat. When she stared at him for a few seconds, his face turned into that of a wolf's, which caused her to pull over and jump out and stand there. She walked across the road and stood there, and there was nobody in the vehicle. And finally, she made herself go. This is in a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood. She said there were literally like people walking by with their strollers and stuff. And she got back in the car and was like, made herself go. That's not even the same vehicle, though, that she took to go up to North Central Illinois. That vehicle was a different vehicle. So she thinks that maybe the tarp that they were using. So what they did was they said, well, let's get rid of that vehicle cover, because they didn't put their vehicles in the garage. They left them in the driveway. Her husband had a truck. She had an SUV. They took that cover off, and they had traded in that vehicle that year. And then she had another vehicle, and it happened there, which is a very new vehicle. Plus, that used vehicle that she had before, they had been the only owners, and she had never had anything weird happen before.
Yeah.
So, power of deduction, let's get rid of the tarp. They throw the tarp away. The next day after the trash people come, the tarp is laying in the driveway. Somehow, the trash people they didn't throw it away, obviously. So her husband says, you know what, I got a solution to this. His brother owns a farm out of town. That weekend, they were headed over there, so they took it out there. They burned their trash, right? This is 20 years ago, So he goes, we go out there, I throw the tarp in there, and it's, we burn it. He's like, after that, everything kind of slowed down. There wasn't a whole lot of mischief going on anymore. He's like, and I still saw a shadow one other time in my backyard. And he said, and about 3 years later, at this point, my oldest now is 18 years old. She's about to graduate from high school. She's a volleyball player and blah, blah, blah. She's like, Dad, come here and look at this. They were cleaning out the back of his storage shed that he had built with his son and his daughter. He said, my daughter was very much a tomboy when she was young. She wanted to be a craftsman, whatever. He goes, my youngest daughter, very much like her mother, pretending to be a teacher or whatever. He's like, my son, very athletic. At that time, he was like 15. He's like, and so we were cleaning out the back of the storage shed, and we find this black bird. It was very much like a raven. And its chest had been opened up, and the innards had been obviously taken out, but it had been mummified. It was inside of a rag. And he said, what's weird is, he goes, I never in a million years would do something like this. He's like, and I remember my youngest, the 5-year-old, when she was a baby. He's like, she was no way. He's like, there's no way that she could have done this. And he's like, my children, the boy and the girl, they're like Irish twins. They're about 11 months apart. But he said that it was crazy because the boy doesn't remember any of it, but he had nightmares about it. And in his nightmare that he had about this bird, he said that there was this black bird that was flying around. He had never seen it. They had never told him about it, but he had a nightmare about it. He said, that's the bird from my nightmare, from my dream. This thing was fluttering around in the backyard, and it was chasing all these other birds away. And wherever it went, it was spreading like this black smoke. Then this man crawls over the fence, the privacy fence, crawls up it, crawls down it, like a caterpillar, he said. Starts to morph into this man with the shaggy hair. Then, as the man stands up, he starts to grow hair that becomes fur, and he becomes a werewolf, and the bird flies into his mouth. As he eats the bird, he becomes like this werewolf type creature with wings, and he flies into the shed. And he's standing in the back of the shed looking at him with red eyes. It gets really weird. He says over the course of like 2 or 3 years, the dream evolves. He would go toward the shed. And at one point, this Anubis-looking creature comes out and goes like this. Feathers in one hand and a heart in the other. What that means, I don't know. But his little sister had chunks of flesh and what looked like a baby heart of a bird, like a little small heart of a bird, in her hand. And then they find it wrapped in a rag in the back of the shed. Who put it in the rag? Who did it? And why? To what purpose? Possible witchcraft, maybe. I don't know. But he says that thing must have been there for years, at least a decade. You know, he said it had to be because that's when his daughter had it in her hand. She didn't remember doing it. But I'm telling you, these demons, they do things. They use people as vessels, and people will go into trance-like states and enact their will. So it's now the realm of possibility that this bird was sacrificed. The vessel of the bird was probably possessed already, and it was given a sacrifice to make something else more palpable, something more tangible, you know, in our world. My opinion, that's purely speculation, folks. I'm going by what I believe could have been the case. I don't know. But, you know, and John Maddox says, do these people not have shotguns? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. It is Illinois. You know, I'm not going to get into, you know, what they have or they don't have, but, you know, it's not going to do much good when you're blowing things in the back of your car that aren't physical. So that's that. But after he found that, they buried the bird in the field behind their house, and that was it. It kind of, the next 3 years, his children grow, they get older, they move on, go to college. You know, his son goes on to play football in another, you know, in a Division II school and gets his degree, and the rest is history. But they had weird dreams and weird things happen. And something followed his youngest daughter, and she was rooming with some people in college. They had something really weird happen. She got her roommate got grabbed and yanked out of her bed by something that they had in the dorm. And then the son had something happen to him when he was staying with some friends after he had graduated and he had started working in Chicago. Something pinned him up against the wall in the shower and was trying to basically go into his body, like to possess him. He got himself right with God and stayed on the path. And now he's, you know, going to church and doing real good. And he's engaged to be married to a young lady. And they're both very Christian. He said, me and my wife pray every day. That's for Tanya, you know, not her real name, obviously, but what happened to her that day on the road, that's the story she had sent me. But it led into all of this.
Yeah.
And there were other incidents that happened too, but not, I mean, we could be here all day talking about every little thing that was told to me. And that was just what she remembered, you know. But are there any questions or anybody has anything?
So just like something plaguing her family.
Yeah, but the thing, you know,
Getting rid of
that car cover seems to have been, because it was like that was a catalyst and it was covering that Ouija board. And I don't know that was what could have, I don't know. I think that whole thing was evil. And here's what I think. If I had to say what I believe, and I don't want to taint everybody else's, you know, view of this, but I would say that there's probably something was going on with the previous owner. Maybe he was doing something. Maybe he was a freaking werewolf. I don't know. Or maybe he was trying to become one, or he was doing something. He was dabbling in something he wasn't supposed to be. Imagine the vehicle that car cover was covering.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that the house was a foreclosure, that the people who had lived there before stopped paying on it and they had to be evicted. So who knows? You know, I
I
mean,
mean, if they couldn't pay for the house, they probably got the car repossessed too.
yeah. And we got a story from a guy we're going to talk about soon. Man, he did security in a junkyard where it was a repo yard.
Mhm.
And it was in San Antonio. And his name is Arturo. And he told me, Arturo, as we say in Spanish, and Arturo told me, dude, he was doing security there. And it was unlike any post he'd ever worked. 30 years in security. And the guy was like, dude, they were being vandalized, but he figured out that it wasn't vandalism, you know, something else.
Yeah.
And it started when they brought in a vehicle where people had died in a vehicle. Very creepy story, very scary thing. We'll talk about that on Sunday, but I don't know. You know, what do you guys think?
Those tow yards and junkyards, like, they got to hold like a lot of just like energy and stories from, because like remember that tow yard that we went to, and we were there overnight, and we talked to the overnight worker guy,
Yeah.
and he was saying like the fatalities are over here on this side of the lot, and like nobody ever goes there. Like
I
don't
walked
ever go
over there and I
'cause it's
felt
yeah.
that energy.
Uh-huh.
It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They're always in like creepy, dingy areas too.
Well, we
Yeah.
talked about that on the show briefly, and Arturo.
Well, we had an episode about
junkyards
stuff happened
in Mexico.
yeah.
Arturo heard that, and he was like, dude, well, it was his brother. And his brother said, hey, my brother's got a story. He used to work security. We started out talking about that, but then he also gave me a vampire story, which I mean, you could call it, he didn't call it a vampire, but I think that's what it was. But, you know, I think that this encounter in the junkyard was very terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Ouija boards, man.
I'm telling you, dude. And a lot of weird stuff to unwrap in that encounter, because you don't, the Ouija board, obviously, it had been thrown away.
Yeah.
It was gone. If I had to say what I believe the Ouija board kept that spirit of whoever that was. You know, and I've asked this question, and they're going to get back with me, and hopefully you guys, if you guys remind me, I should have the answers by you know, Monday or Sunday or Monday. I'll find out. Because Tanya and Dan are actually going to do some homework for me. They're going to try and find out if this guy that used to live there, if anybody knows anything about him, because the neighbors knew him. Like if he's deceased or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They never asked that question. Like maybe did he take his own life, or did something happen to him? Did he come back in the spirit and do this? Was he angry? What was he into? Now, if he's into lycanthropy, he's probably a warlock of some kind. He was doing black magic. His spirit could be being used or manipulated still by demons. And people don't realize that. When you say things like that, people are like, oh, that's crazy. I don't believe that. I don't care what you believe. I know what's what. Okay? And I don't have the answers to everything. But I have my theories on things, and I've put together the pieces of the puzzle for a lot of stuff. You know, sometimes in this field, you have to play detective. Stanfield. There you go. A dead werewolf and its other ? See what we got in the questions here in the chat. Sean. I want to know why it's not spelled with it. Exactly, Sean. That is the question, right? That's more important. We need to figure out why it's spelled that way.
It's just abominable French language crap.
It's just a
It's a fake language. It's not real. Just like someone got drunk and made it up one day.
No,
And then Stanfield says, the werewolf other evolved to higher degree or something, maybe. So last night, here's a weird thing. Last night we were on a post and an assignment with Joe. He works for us now, Joe Breezy, if you guys know. Joe's done a really good job. Kudos to him. He's doesn't drink anymore, and he's got himself cleaned up, and he's done a really good job. I mean, I don't think he was. I don't want to say he got cleaned up like he was dirty, but he looks presentable now. He got, he puts his hair up, and he's got. He's working for us doing security, and I'm good friends with Joe. He lives in the next town over. So he was on one side, and Maddie was on another side, and we went to go and check on them. And we were trying to continue training Joe and get him what he needs to do. Me and Anthony were doing the patrol, so we broke away, went and did what we had to do. What, about 12 cop cars at the job site where Joe was at? Joe's first night at that site, third night on the job, and he's like, yo, man, something's really going down. And there was just police vehicle after police vehicle after police vehicle. And we were standing there with Maddie, and we quit counting. It was just so many. And then we went back over to that site while Anthony was training Joe, and we were all talking. So me and Maddie were talking away from them two. And I was standing there with her, and I see this shadow. There's a lumber yard. And I see this shadow go between these two layers of lumber, and it's like it's two-dimensional. It comes squeezing out. And I kid you not, I look down and there's a cat. Like a cat. It's like stretching its legs. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa, it was like a shadow. And then I don't see a shadow anymore. I see a cat on the ground. And then the cat just walks, and it goes through the fence, and then it starts going into the garage.
That happens all the time. There's another security guard who works for a different company, but he comes by all the time. And we'll be standing there talking to each other, and I'll be looking one way, and he'll be looking the other. And we'll constantly see shadows, and then it's just a cat walking by. You're like,
what the heck, dude? So okay, so that happened to me last night. And then while we were talking, I saw a shadow being, like a shadow person. I saw with my own eyes. And Maddie was looking away. It was right after the thing with the lumber. So she was looking off into that lumber yard. And so I said, whoa. And she's like, what? And she missed it. And you were right there talking to Joe.
Yeah.
And I see this like a shadow, just like the head and shoulders of like what would be like, I guess, a shadow man come out of that fire room door right there by the garage. And it covered up the fire emblem. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, and I saw it like come out, like somebody would peek their head out and then go back in, and it went right back in. And I was like, whoa. So then Maddie tells me, she's like, yeah, I see shadow stuff like here all the time. I'm always seeing weird stuff. And other people have told me that at that particular site, that they've seen that stuff, there. And so I don't know what that is, but it was weird, dude, at that place. I've only worked that site one time, and that was like 2 years ago. And I was so busy on the phone trying to get somebody to go cover something else because I can't remember what it was. Somebody had quit or something, or no, they didn't quit. It was no call, no show, and they do what they always do. Oh, sorry, man. And they went, no, you're sorry. But yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I saw two shadow things like right there, back to back, right there. So yeah. And then right after that, like all those police showed up.
Yeah.
Like right after that. And it was a domestic. And apparently, I guess today the guy got arrested or something. I don't know, because I don't know the whole thing, but it was crazy. But why would you need all them police presence there? It was just, it's nuts, man. It's a scary place, It's a nice complex. And the people that pay a lot of money to live there, but I think that area is just bad. It's the land, something there, because it's been nothing but desolation and crap. And then they just say, oh, we're going to knock all these old decrepit buildings down because it was industrial area. And now people are living there. So that happened last night. That was weird. So anybody have anything else to say before we run?
We had one person with a pretty good question that they left a super chat. Thumping Weevil says, do you believe something could rewrite something on a whiteboard? Because something rewrote the month of August on my board, and no one did it to spin in my home. My son's been waking up talking about a man as well.
What did he write?
I don't know. We'll have to ask her. If you're here with us, still the
Hey.
thumping weevil.
Wrote August, right? Is that what that implies?
Well, it says she says something rewrote the month of August on my whiteboard, so she probably has like a calendar whiteboard, and she says something rewrote it, and it wasn't her son, and her son's been waking up talking about a man in his dreams.
Hmm.
That's strange.
Okay. I don't know what to think of that.
I don't know if they're still here with us.
I don't know. I don't see anybody say anything. Anybody else got anything to say? Otherwise, we're going to run. Thank you to those who donated. Let's see. All right, guys. I'm just reading the chat, reading the comments. You want to do the mail? We're going to do the mail offs hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to win, just tell me, hey, I want to win. I'm going to pick somebody tonight. I'll pick somebody, and you guys each pick somebody, and we'll have some people for tomorrow's mail off. Sorry about that. Patrick Mack says that I have a lot going on, and his brother passed away. He's only 36. Oh, my gosh.
Man.
So,
sorry to hear that.
So anybody who wants to win, say I haven't won, and you win. It's that simple.
Do you have a TikTok, Anthony?
Melissa says I want to win, but have you won recently, Melissa? Because if you have, we're going to wait and see who we can get, that hasn't won. But if not, then you can be a winner. Percy says I want to win. Megan Skinner says I want to win. Have you guys won? Tell me if you've won or not, because we got to give others a chance. Although you're here in the chat, I mean, Villain Vids. I haven't seen you in a while. Brandy, what does it say? Brandix back? I haven't won.
Brand X is back.
Brand X is back. Okay. And John Maddox says, I want to rock. Well, that's not what we're asking, John. John is crazy.
Old Head Trippin' says he's never won. I think he's been with us for a while.
Who?
Old Head Tripping. I don't remember his name from a while back.
I don't remember that guy. So let's pick somebody. I'll pick somebody. I'll pick Villain Vid says I haven't won. I'll pick you, Villain Vids.
Oh, bless your heart, Percy. You live in Canada. I'll pray for you.
Oh, man. Poor guy.
Is that a guy or a girl?
I don't know.
That's their cat's name. Because I remember when I was telling the story of Percival the Clown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who we don't know if that person has ever been a ghost or a cryptid, but he's a weird guy, to say the least. Join the Patreon, folks, because in September, we're going to be doing an extra show every month, and you're going to only get that by being a Patreon member. And the pre-record, the regular pre-record, is going to go to members only on YouTube. So become a member on YouTube. It's $5 to become a member on YouTube, and it's $10 to become a Patreon member. So we got to do something because we can't depend on people's mercy. So David Buckle says, I want a swag bag. Put the link to the Patreon on there so people can join it because you're going to need it next month.
Yeah, all you have to do, David, is just make sure that you send us a message on Patreon, just saying that you need to get your swag bag, and make sure you send us your mailing address and your shirt size. That's all we need. And we'll send you your swag bag depending on like what tier you're on the Patreon.
Yeah. So who are you picking? I got Villain Vids. Villain, here's what you do. Giveaways at prtpodcast.com. Bottom of the screen, folks. Villain Vids is a winner. Yes, he says, hit the like button, everyone. Please do. He says, I have never won. Well, Bill Hardaway says, I have never won, and I've been on your channel since y'all had it. So there's another person. So
I'll pick him.
Are you picking him?
Yeah.
Okay. There were a few others
Who's
up top that had gone through.
Who's your pick?
Wild Bill
Way to pay
Okay,
attention.
well then
You're doing a great job.
Hardaway.
Well, I'm looking for people.
There's a
I
bunch of
choose
them.
Brand X is back.
Brand X is back. There you go. Okay, so you got Brand X. Okay. So there we go. We got 3 people. All right. So here's the question. Are we doing the podcast episode tomorrow night? Is that another one that we did with Dick Richards?
Yeah, that's another one that we recorded with him.
Okay. Is that the third one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tomorrow night, you're going to get another show, and it's going to be a pre-recorded podcast episode. Thank you to everybody who donated. Sean Hertel, Rhinoceros, Lawrence Morgan, Risky Precision TV, Joe Three Pops. He's always donating. Good guy. August Bradshaw, Thumping Weevil. Do you believe something could rewrite something on a whiteboard because something we rewrote the month of August on my board? And no one did that. It's in my home. My son's been waking up to talking to a man as well. Yeah. It's crazy. Awesome show. Fred Martin, Two Shadows, and Stanfield, 2742. Thank you guys for donating. Thank you for helping out and making the show what it is. We're able to continue to function because of the charitable people that give us donations and join the Patreon. The Patreon. I can't stress it enough because you get a lot of free stuff. And it's good for us, good for you. We get to give you shirts to advertise, and you get to walk around with some really cool swag. And of course, you will not. The paywall will be the Patreon. We're going to put things behind the Patreon, so you're getting extra content and free swag. One of those is good enough to be able to donate to that, but you're getting both. Dick Richards says a crazy encounter. Richard, did you tell that story on here? I thought you did. Overbuilt. We love our Canadian friend Dick, and he loves Tim Hortons Finger Red #1. Oh gosh, goofy. Hadn't seen Richards in a while. Richards, stick the link on there. Let's get him on here for a few. We got a little bit of time here. We got 15 minutes. Put him on here. Get on here, Richard. I want to ask you a couple questions in front of the audience. I want to grill you in front of everyone. Thank you, Bluestone, for that donation. Jason said, I'm being serious here. What are you being serious about? I don't know how to send emails, okay? Oh, gosh, Jason, don't know how to send an email.
Oh, you can send us a telegram or smoke signals. We'll receive it.
Why is Okay, there it goes. We're going to see if Richards will show up here. We don't know if he will. He might be hiding. He might be too scared.
He might still be infected by the Canadian sickness.
The sickness of the Canada. There we go. There he is. See if he's on there. There he is. Hurry up and sit down, Richards. I don't want people to see your messy house behind you there.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, man?
How
Well, you
are
look
y'all?
skinny, man. Are you not going and eating at that place you normally eat at?
Skinny? What are you talking about, skinny,
Well,
bro?
you got a little bit of a muscle there, a little
Come
bit of
on.
a little bitty little thing there.
I'm down under 15% body fat, bro.
Dang, that's good, dude. But that's called
That's
the no.
just starvation.
That's
That's your body eating itself.
All right,
That's
the
not really
six pack
something to
looks
talk
great,
about.
bro. The
he's
six
on
pack.
that. He's on that no money, no food diet. That's what that
Don't
is.
make-
I've
don't
been on
make
that
me-
diet before.
Don't make me flash the six pack for the ladies, man.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, do it. Let's see if you have one. Go make
Seriously?
That's called ribs.
But hey, you're like, I haven't had a McRib in forever. Wow, look at that. He's got them for real. Wow. Okay, you can put your shirt down, dude. We don't need to keep looking at
Okay.
that.
Just spends the rest of the show like that.
I spend so much time at the Iron Bull that I get to see that all the time.
That's
they're always
it.
in there just woo, dancing with the Iron Bill or Bear. They're always in there with that. going
He'll
on.
always be my bear, bro.
Sure, yeah, Richards. Look, someone now from Oklahoma's going, we got him now. He's admitting to his homosexuality. He's going to be all over that. So let me ask you a question, man. So you've been eating that delicious Tim Hortons, but I hear that you were dumpster diving though to get the Tim Hortons.
Yeah, no, I literally just got out of the dumpster. I was rooting through my neighbor's garbage, and they chased me off, so I had to go across the parking lot and
You
get the
had to go get
dumpster.
some delicious Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Oh God, golly, that's crazy, dude. So the question everybody has is, when are you going to become a Texan? When are you coming down here and going to work with us?
I know. I got to do this soon. I got to get on this. I've been procrastinating, to be honest.
Stop procrastinating, because this is how you're going to get what you need to get. You need to come down here.
I know. You're right.
With those
You're right.
6-pack abs and your little muscles there on your arms, we can get you dancing in the bears in no time. The dancing bear.
Get me a Beto outfit.
Gonna earn you some money.
Just a joke, guys.
What's a Beto outfit? What is that?
Beto, like from The Sopranos.
Vito.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she got to get you in there. I think of all the goofy, stupid rumors they came up with, that's the stupidest one of all. Because ain't nobody, because in order to substantiate a rumor like that, somebody, if you're that kind of person, somebody's going to be able to say, hey, there's nobody that they're going to get that's going to go, yeah, I've seen him there in the Iron Bear. He's in there dancing around, hanging out.
For somebody with a record like his to be pointing fingers at anybody else about anything else is quite.
I don't think it was the guy from Oklahoma that started that. It was that Barton. Yeah. It was that guy. I think it was him, and it was Barton and old Rory and Roger from the LBL.
Actually, my
Ed Dean of the LBL.
We had a bad rainstorm the other day, and a leak came through my roof. Can you give me Larry's number?
Yeah, but he's always talking about how the roofs he does, like he's always talking about how charitable he is. I didn't even charge him for the roof. I'm really thinking that he doesn't even have a business, because he's.
Don't worry, man. He'll come over there and he'll make that hole disappear.
What he means is he didn't get paid for the job because he did such a crappy freaking work and got thrown off the side.
Because he's always talking about how charitable he is. And
stuff. Charitable my ass.
I don't believe that. But let's not talk about these. So I got a question for you. So did you tell that encounter with the horn? You told it to us, right? We did it on the show?
that was on either episode 123 or 124 on the podcast.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I was talking to I can't even remember the person's name. I'm kind of retarded like that.
We know.
But yeah, they were telling me about seeing a weird. It was dressed up all weird, and I was just saying that I'd seen one of the those creatures as well, and it was.
I remember that guy came on the show on a. We need to do another live with all the people telling their stories. We were going to do it last night, but I just had too much stuff to do, man, too much work. But we've been super slammed, super busy. And when people trying to get people days off has just been hell. But I remember a guy came on the show. He was that black dude. He talks a lot this. He's a real funny guy. He has that Optimus Prime with a fro.
Oh yeah, that guy's great. Yeah, that dude's great.
Funny, man. And he was talking about seeing like a demon that looked like Count Chocula.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds funny.
That was a scary encounter, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, people see stuff like that. You know, and so I was going to say something. I wish that guy would come back just so he could verify that the audience, because here's a bonus encounter I got. So I was talking to this guy the other day, and we were talking about a thing that he saw in his house, and this was out in California. And it was in Sacramento, actually. We were talking about it, and he says, I heard you talking about Sacramento, and my brother told me you should tell the story, whatever. So he told me when they were children, they were out riding their bikes in the neighborhood, and this weird, like, he said it was blue, like its face looked kind of blue. And this was only about 15 years ago. It's not very old. This isn't a very old guy. He's like 25 years old. But he says, when I was young, I'm like, when? Yesterday? Like, and he's like, no, when I was like a kid, you know, when I was like 10. So it'd been about 15 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. But he said that, and of course, even though they were kids, his friend had his cell phone and was trying to take a picture of it. But all it was a blurry blue streak. That's what it looked like to me. But he said that this thing jumped out of a tree and it looked like a vampire. But the way that he described it was like it had a triangular head. And it was weird because it reminded me of that guy's encounter where he was talking about the Count Chocula dude. Kind of looked like that, but like a really, really dark electric blue, the way he described it.
Dark Waters had some, I remember him talking about some encounters with those weird triangular head beings as well.
Yeah, he probably poached that from somebody else.
Who knows?
Well, who knows? I know
saying.
there's a lot of AI generated stuff, but I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into
Yeah. I don't mean to be bringing them up, but
they do though. I mean, and it doesn't change the fact that some people still have good stuff, you know. I mean, I'm not friends with certain people that I don't like certain people, but that doesn't mean that some of their stuff, broken clocks and all that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They can still have pertinent information, and it doesn't matter. You just got to be careful with certain people because you don't know how much credibility is there, you know.
Fair enough. But yeah, the triangle. What do you think's with the triangular head? Like, is it like a perfect triangle, or is it like the demon head in like a triangular shape kind of thing?
There's two different things going on there. One is this weird head that the Bigfoot has, which is like this big, you know, pointy head, and people will refer to it as a triangular head. But then there's other people who claim that these things have like a Dorito looking head.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and those like the ones from Petra, these weird demons are like interdimensional, like fractal beings with these triangular heads. And I know, Anthony, we talked to somebody who was telling us about that. They were from Petra. I don't know, man. And look here, somebody just says here, you shall not pass. Oh, that's rain.
Oh yeah. That Silent Hill thing with the big blade or whatever that kept showing up.
Yeah.
Pyramid head, I think his name is.
Sonia says here, yes, beat ass tire. What? What is that? Beat as and beat? What is that? What?
She's talking about her previous comments. She just got home from.
I'm sitting there going like, "What is that? What are you doing, Sonia? You're over here telling us that you're beat ass tired. What is that?" Yeah, pyramid head. There you go.
I said that.
Yeah.
Did you see that weird picture of the real skinny Dogman that they had, and it was like standing in like a cave opening? Not a cave opening, but it was like. It was just like kind of a loop where the wind had pushed through the sandy part, and it was real skinny looking, and it had like almost like little bug ears coming off its head. Yeah, I saw that the other day. That was real scary looking.
So Sonia says something else. She says, "This is why I love my PRT fam. I feel a bit better, and then I can handle this ship show drama." Let me tell you something. If you think you have drama going on, times it times 10, that's what my life is right now. My life is absolute. By the grace of God, a bunch of stuff went wrong this past weekend, and we only got one call from a client. I had half a dozen major things happen, and one of the clients was very understanding. This is what literally happened at one of our job sites, and thank goodness it didn't happen when we were on duty. But this is how brazen they are. Central Austin, and it's not a good area, but it's not like a war zone. There's some places that are like war zones now. The superintendent to one of the construction sites that we do, major company, we've been doing business with them for 6 years. He pulls his truck in, parks it, goes inside to talk to the man. The apartment complex is now open, so they're already taking people in, but they're not done. A guy pulls up, jumps out, bashes his window in while he's in there talking to the manager of the complex, steals everything out of his truck and jumps into a vehicle, and then they take off. And it was a matter of seconds. And the superintendent was messaging me and saying, hey, man, we got to step it up, because if these people will do this in broad daylight, you guys are going to be careful, watch it at night, because there'll be nothing's happened to us at night, knock on, wood. But if they'll do that in broad daylight to somebody's, big truck, what would they do at night if we weren't there? They would just rob that place blind. So this is what's happening. And then we had somebody try to kill someone on one of our sites last night, which is just, it was crazy, like 12 cop cars. And
ironically, you saw the shadow demon. I'm telling you, they're agents of chaos. You notice how they're always around shootings. They're always around like crazy incidents like that. They're always around like when people are getting like, when something actually happens. They see them all the time and they get like where there's big shootings in like gang areas. You'll see those shadow men all around.
Well, and shortly before you came and took your clothes off, we had some weird stuff going on here. Ladies. And then the next thing you know, your hideous form was being unclothed on our show. You're absolutely you're right about that. So when you were out there dumpster diving for the delicious Tim Horton meal, do you ever see shadow people coming out of the woodwork in the dumpster?
Okay, well, here's something I never told you about. Remember I told you about after seeing that witch run out of the house?
You told me what? How did you say it?
After seeing the witch come running out of the house.
How did you say it, though, before that? You said, what did you say? Something I never told you what?
Oh, yeah, so a story I'd never told you guys about.
No, I see you're changing it. What did you say?
I think I've told you this, but I didn't. I forgot to bring it up.
I told you, boot.
Amazing. All right. You got me.
He's like, it's something I never told you, boot. I'm not your buddy. I'm not your guy. I'm not your buddy guy. Go ahead.
So it was in the heights of the COVID nonsense.
Okay, thank you for saying that. On my algorithms aren't bad enough already with the constant reporting of my channel from the near duos. You have to go and say that. You called their scamdemic nonsense.
Did I say no? I meant the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity.
Yes, and we love Dr. Fauci, and he was right about everything.
Yes.
Please don't take our channel down.
It's safe.
You guys have done a great job.
And the Second Amendment,
CDC is doing awesome. We love them.
Yeah. And we love the World Health Organization. Shout out.
Shout out to the WHO.
Yeah.
Shout out WHO.
Word WHO. So go ahead. Tell us a story about the whatever you were talking about.
All right. I don't know what time it was at night, but I went for a walk, and it's just right up here, first corner. Like it's literally like 50 meters that way.
That's the Tim Horton.
Tim Hortons is right over here. Tim Hortons.
That's the other side where the dumpster.
Yeah, Tim Hortons is just over here, and I can hit it with a rock if I threw the rock like maybe 3 times.
Okay. All right.
I know it's disgusting. So Witch's house is right here on the corner. Like literally, I could throw a rock 3 times and hit her, maybe 2 times and hit her house.
Yeah, why do you judge things by how you can hit them with a rock?
That's a weird thing in my head.
Hit him with a rock. You can throw a rock as many.
I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's
a Canadian distance measure.
I can hit you with a rock.
It's that primal ape urge. Just throw rocks at things.
It's like we're all Neanderthal blood here, eh?
Yeah.
It's about time we throw a rock.
As the crow flies, that kind of
crows
thing.
and rocks. Very, very primal.
There you go. It's Odin.
He likes the Old Testament weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Go ahead. Tell us
I could
the
easily
story.
hit it with a sling one shot.
We're judging things by how you can hit them with
Oh
pebbles.
yes, long distance rocks.
Tell us. Go ahead. Tell us a story. Canadian metric measurements, Ona says. There
All
you go.
right. So there's a church that's government run here called the United Church. And they're just, yeah, exactly. They're just up around the corner. And they had a certain mandate to get into their church, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, that church is known to be satanic in the various ways
There's
that
like a satanic church just there. Is it masquerading as a Christian church?
It's masquerade. It absolutely is.
Wow.
Well, what they've done is they've brought in certain tenets, like allowing certain people that shouldn't be ministers to be ministers, welcoming everybody, if you know what I mean, flying certain flags, doing all of these agendas that the government has going on here. So this church has just been overrun with blasphemous madness the last few years. And not just this one. I mean, the United Church in general. Like the people have walked away from the United Church en masse. So I was walking by this church, and all of a sudden I look to the right, and I see this shadow person that was about 10 or 12 feet tall walk around the side and out the front of the church and then around the other side. And I was like, oh man, did I just see that? So I'm like, all right. And I said, you know, I rebuke you in the name, the Lord rebukes you in the name of Jesus Christ, kind of thing. And just kept on walking, did my walk, came back. As soon as I came back, I was in front of that church again, walking home. And this dude, this is like 2:30 in the morning, man. This dude in a pair of glasses, he had them big nerd glasses on. He comes, turns, speeding around the road, streaks up the road, pulls into that United Church driveway, and starts doing 360, 360, 360, 360, and I'm standing there just being like, am I really seeing this? And he's looking at me, dude. His eyes were bugged right out. Like, I mean, and he did about 6 360s in the parking lot in this stupid little K car as fast as the thing would go, and then pulled out and drove off, and the way he went. So
wow,
that's the last time I saw a shadow person.
Jeez.
They're always around weird crap, man.
Yeah,
Always.
weird stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks to Dick Richards for showing up here. According to the ops, if you keep on just kissing up to us, eventually you'll get a room in our house.
And I get to wash truffles.
You get to wash Truffles, but he doesn't
I
live
know.
with us though. Truffles got his own house. He lives out at the ranch in his own house. He literally does.
Yeah,
So that's all I have to do for room and board is wash truffles?
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
no, I mean, we're going to be moving our studio, and it's going to be into a house. And
Okay.
we're not going to tell anyone where it's at. It's not going to be in our names or whatever. It's going to be in a friend of ours.
Nice.
So we can be protected. And the PRT house, you can live there, and we'll give you like the shed in the back of the PRT
Alright.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably bigger than my place.
I've already been looking into a couple dog houses, so let me know your sizes so I can get the right dimensions.
Hey, whatever works. It's warm though.
You got to have a bunch of
That shed would probably be worth like $500,000 in Canada. So
Yeah, no,
exactly.
that's
It's a
no
real
joke
picture.
either.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we figured out, we started doing the math, and we were like, we could get a house with a couple friends of ours. That's like literally 4 to 5 bedroom house for the price that we would pay for the rent here and what they're paying for apartments.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just makes sense because we would have a break room, a storage room, and the studio.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And I have the office, I have an office for my security at my company already. So I don't need, I wouldn't need this. And I'm tired of the noises and weird stuff here.
Yeah,
Anybody
that place
thinks they're by
is,
themselves, they got to hear that. They don't want to deal with it.
yeah, that place is severely haunted, bro.
It is, definitely is. And the thing is too, I can't say that it did come from the show, even though we talk about the weird stuff, because it was like that when we first came. There was a guy that had his office right here next to us, and he was always telling us weird stuff when we had the freeze. What was it called? What they call it? The snowpocalypse. Snowpocalypse here.
Yeah.
Where it would just snow down. It was snowed in and it was below freezing, for a few days. And everybody was like, Texas is not prepared for that kind of stuff, where there's just ice on everything. There was like a big thick layer of ice on everything. Like even if you were up north and you had that, the whole place was just covered in 2 or 3 inches of ice.
Yeah, how many snowplows do your counties actually have?
Not many, maybe
Yeah,
one
I'll
or
bet.
two.
You got one for the whole state.
But we had the trees; they were just like bowed down, and a bunch of them are still messed up from it. And that was a few years ago. And so when he was here, though, he heard knocking and banging, and there was nobody in this whole building at all. And he heard all kinds of noises. He heard conversations. He was telling us about it. Remember that, Anthony? He was telling us all about it. And so he said, dude, it was like 5 days of him just snowed in here because he came up here to do some work.
Oh, he was stuck there.
He was stuck here. Yeah.
Wow.
So he had a bunch of weird stuff happen. Luckily, though, he had some food stuff in the fridge, and he just, he made the best of it. He was able to walk to the store after the 3rd day. Now, what was even scarier about that was there were 3 different snow incidents. The first one was the second one was the really bad one. That was the year before there had been a big snow, whatever, but then there was another one the next year. That one, Tony, you ended up stuck on post for 3 days. Tony was stuck on post for 3 days. The scariest thing was we could not get petrol to him. And so he goes, dude, I'm slowly running out. You want to tell the story?
Yeah, I was just frozen in, and like they had these generators, which I luckily had some heaters with me because had some heaters inside the office. So I stole them because there was no one in the office. And I put them in my car, and the generators kept freezing over, and they were running out of petrol. So I was just going from one generator to the other, hoping, that it would last me. But it was freezing. Banjo was cold too. He loved the snow, but once he was done, he needed to be warmed up.
The snow was on top of like 3 inches of ice, though, because I had to break up the ice so that we could move, to get out, and it was thick like that, thick ice, and it was crazy. That was the second one. The first one was like snow ice, about 1.5 inches. This was like 3 inches. It was unreal. It was crazy. It was all over the trees. He was snowed in. Scorpion was snowed in. My brother was snowed in, and a bunch of our other guards. 2 other guards. They ended up stuck there for like 2 or 3 days. They were okay because they could go into the building of the apartment complex they were working at, and then some of the residents there kind of took care of those 2 guards, so we didn't have to worry about them. But one was a female, and she had children. She had things she had to do. And her kids they weren't little kids, though. Luckily, they were kids, though. But they were just like, well, when's mom coming home? She can't get out of there. She was stuck at that apartment complex. My brother was at a place they were building out in Manor, and he luckily they had the electricity on until they didn't. The electricity went out on the 3rd day. He was there for 4 days. On the 3rd day, so then the building slowly started to get cold. But my brother, he's pretty resourceful, so he had a bunch of blankets and he always dresses like the kid from in the wintertime. He's always like the kid from A Christmas Story. So he's like he goes to work looking like a starfish. So he was okay. So I called him and I said, "Are you all right?" And he says, "I'm okay." And then he had a friend of ours lived over there in Manor. A couple of our friends, Chief and Big Jim, both lived over there, and so they were able to get through and get him some supplies and some food on the 4th day, and he made it through till the next day, and then we got him out of there. Scorpion was down in Menchaca, and that was a worse situation, but he was able to go inside, and he had central heat and air. But if there was nobody down there to give him anything, he was kind of on the edge of civilization, and if the electricity would have went out, it could have been really bad. But the electricity held up. So he was fine. He stayed warm the whole time. But we were just thinking, man, if that electricity goes out like it did with D, he would have been cold real quick. And then Tony, he was in the complex that was the least developed. There was no electricity at all. He just had the generators. And unfortunately for you, you were able to survive.
Did you say unfortunately?
Fortunately,
Oh, I thought you said-
He said, and fortunately.
oh, I was about to say.
yeah, because the first snowpocalypse, we were we were still over there by Zane lived with us, and we were at the y'all were all on post. Anthony, you, and everybody was on post, but it was only 2 days or 3 days, and it was everybody had a place that they could hunker down. The second one, we the electricity went out. Everything, it was bad. We got real cold in that haunted house we were in.
Mm-hmm.
But that first one, Zane was walking. He could still go to Topgolf. We lived down the road from the job site where Zane was at. So Zane was going and working there like 14 hours a day. And the netting in the back of the Topgolf collapsed. It just collapsed.
Yeah, but
Yeah. So
so what you got to do though for winter survival is you got to keep that winter survival emergency kit in your trunk.
mhm.
The best thing, what you want is you want those cans of heat in a can or fire in a can. Get those things that you mush up that
Yeah, we have
like
lots of those.
The 8-hour things.
Mhm.
Always have 2 sleeping bags though, because you can survive to -40 with 2 sleeping bags.
Well, when I
One
got
inside the
really cold,
other.
I just kind of went to a mirror, took my shirt off, and started flexing, and that the heat already off.
Oh, really? Kind of like Richard's.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
just
understand.
put my
With
six
yourself, your
pack.
abs.
your 6-packs, it'll warm you up real quick.
That's how I start my fires.
I think you would scare yourself.
That's how
with
he
the
starts his
reflection.
fires. You just rub your hands on it. You're like, oh, I'm so warm now.
Exactly.
You know,
It's
Probably
it's
does his
easy.
laundry too. He uses it as a washboard.
he sings that song from Buffalo Bill from what's it called?
Right.
Silence of the
Lambs. What's it? Horses?
easy.
What's it called? That's what he does. That he warms
It's
himself up.
easy to find girls to keep you warm when you've got that too. So you
Yeah.
know, body heat,
Big
right?
old fat girl. Big old fat girl.
Hey, whatever works, man. Whatever works.
See, that's a Mandela effect though too, because I remember him saying, "Is she a big old fat, woman, whatever?" And then now
Yeah,
it's
he
a big
says
old fat
that.
person. No, he says person now.
Oh,
She's a big
really?
old fat person. No, yeah, for real. That it's changed. What he says.
Because I think he says, "Oh yeah, she was a great big fat person."
Yeah, person. Yeah. Well, he asks, "Is it a big old fat person?" Something like that.
Yeah.
But so
Wow.
the cold got really bad. The second time it was awful, but it was bad the first time. The first time it was the year before, and we were at the condo, the domain, and Zane had to walk to Topgolf, and he fell and busted his ass, and he slid like 30 yards.
Yeah, no doubt.
He came home and he was like, he had this big old bruise up the side of his leg and his hip, and it was horrible, man. And he was over there. Nellie was helping him, and he was just like, he could barely walk. And he was like, but he toughed it out. He went to work every day. And there again, it was Scorpion was on y'all. All of y'all were on post. It didn't last as long. Y'all were able to drive, but the ice over there in that parking lot that Zane had to walk through, it was precarious.
Yeah,
So if
we
we were
did-
able to drive, I had to drive him over there. He couldn't walk over there.
Huh. Yeah, you got to get those ice cleats, man, that you slip
There it
on
is.
over your boots.
Goodbye horses. I'm not going to go invest in all this cold weather shit, okay? Because we have this once or twice a year, Richards. Okay,
It's like
not like Canada.
$100 worth of shit, bro.
She had chains on our
you
tires
guys
too,
don't
while we're
have
at
to
it.
do that because 90% of y'all's winter is like that. Y'all are like up there, like the nook of the north. We don't have that here.
Some years it's 6 months, bro.
For you,
Yeah.
it could be. Those 2 winters were brutal. It was months and months of cold ass weather below freezing. And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, well it gets -60 here." I don't give a shit who you are. Once it gets into the teens, it's cold, dude.
Yeah.
Cold
It is
cold.
cold for anybody. I don't care who you are. We have friends that are from Michigan, friends that are from Canada. They were down here and they were like, "It's just cold, eh? I thought we got away from this." No, we're here. Texas up here, Central Texas, it gets cold. People are surprised at how cold it gets. These people come here and they're like, "I wasn't expecting this."
I mean, you could turn it on its
What
head.
did you
though.
expect? Just because it gets to 100 degrees in the summer doesn't mean it's going to not get into the teens in the winter. It gets into the teens every year.
Go struggle in the heat of 71 degrees.
It's
Sweltering.
it takes the body a while to acclimatize to a 90-degree shift as well.
It does, man. And let me tell you something. I was in
yeah, I did
Brian Head one time, and that lady, she was like, she was checking me out on something. She was like ringing up something I had, some beef jerky or something I got, and I was up there in Brian Head, and we were riding the snowmobiles, right? And it had just gotten to where it was cold, and she was like, "Yeah, it's cold up here, but I'm used to it." And it was like, you know, in the teens or something, you know. But I had fun. I would go up there, I'd ride 4-wheelers, and then because I was in Vegas, you know, and it would not really get that cold in Vegas, but 3 hours to the north, you know, west, and you're up there. And so I was like, I told her, I said, yeah, I was like, down in Vegas, it's, you know, like 45, 50, whatever, and that's as cold as it was going to get. But she was like, yeah, it's cold up here. She goes, but our summers are really bad up here. So next summer I go up there, and I wasn't even staying up there at that time in the winter. I was staying. So the next summer I was back up there. I go up there. She's there, and she's just sweating, and she looks like she's about to fall over dead. And it's the same girl. I'll never forget. And it was July, and it was right around my birthday. And I went up there with my brother-in-law and some friends. And I said, so what's going on? I said, it's summer, huh? It feels great out here. And she was like, it's so hot. I look at the thermometer. I was like, there's literally a thermometer. I said, it was 79 Fahrenheit, right? It's 79. She goes, it's been so brutal this summer. I said, lady, I left Las Vegas. It was 111. There were 3 ones on there.
Yeah.
111 degrees. I told her, I said, I just came from Vegas, 111.
It was the one day I was in Reno, it was 110 degrees, but it was a dry heat.
In Reno?
Yeah.
Damn. What was that?
2010.
Because when I was up there, the last summer I was up there was in 2018. I was in Reno, and it was nice. It was about 88 degrees or something like that. And I think that was about as hot as it got. I was there for 2 days.
Yeah, it was 2010. It was a real hot spell when my girlfriend and I were there. But that town's horrible. That town sucks.
Yeah, especially when they give you a room with a view and it's of a scrapyard.
We were across the street. Yeah, we were right across the street in the timeshare from the trailer park from your worst nightmares, the worst methy trailer park I'd ever seen in my life.
Reno has got some pretty cool areas, and then it's got some trash. It's just it's a strange place, man. It really is, dude. I kind of like it. It's got a little bit of a charm to it. But when they tell you, would you like a room with a view? I thought it was a joke. I go up there and I open the curtain, and there's a scrapyard. So I went back down and I said, hey, I think you made a mistake. You gave me a room with a view, and it is a view of a scrapyard. And the lady goes, yeah. that was it.
I mean, technically,
she's like, she leans in. She's kind of snarky, but I thought it was kind of funny. She tells us, "You're in Reno.
Funny.
This is a scenic view." And she laughed, and I said, "Okay." I went back upstairs. Me and Nellie were like, "Well, let's enjoy the view. Let's watch the bums on quests for their habits."
You can start betting on what they'll do.
They're taking because they're on like little missions or whatever.
Yeah.
Every day they wake up, they got to go on like a mission, like it's like a video game for them. They're like, I got to I got to find precious metals to mend and weave into something to get.
Gather 2 pounds of copper from construction sites.
That's what they do. Yeah, they're always on quests.
Yeah.
Like you'll catch them on their little missions, and it's kind of funny. Like it's like literally like a role playing game. I was talking to a crackhead one day, and he's like, "Yo, man, life is hard when you're a crackhead." I said, "I imagine." I was like, your whole life is just going on quests to find stuff to sell."
Yeah.
He goes, "It's either that or do things you don't want to do." I'm like, well, I can understand that, but you're already doing stuff you shouldn't want to do. Like, do you want to do that? Do you want to steal? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
But the alternative is, I guess, you're doing something even worse. But, the life of a crackhead is not pleasant. And we've had to deal with them many times, and they'll come on, I had one crackhead try to negotiate with me. He's like, look, I'm going to try to break in. Like, he flat out told me that. I'm at the gate. I'm at the fence. And I'm like, you're going to break in. He says, yeah. I said, no, you're not, because I'm going to stomp your head into the curve. So he says, well, if you give me $10, I'll just leave you alone. And I was like,
amazing.
I said, I'll give you $5 and a burrito. How about that? So I gave him like a burrito from, what's it called? The Chipotle. I gave him a burrito and $5. I said, here you go, man. He's like, all right, man, all right. It actually paid off. It paid off because that I saw him like literally rummaging through the electrical box across the street. And I was like, oh, he's over there doing quests, you know. So,
top-notch negotiating skills on those people as well.
well, you know, you could just go back to your truck and be up all night going like this, looking around, you know, and hoping that the caffeine keeps you up, and because you're not going to smoke crack with them, you know, so you got to stay awake because they're on some high-powered fuel.
Yeah.
They're like, now I'm going to figure out I'm going to get my next hit. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to steal some stuff out that box over there.
They're on that rocket fuel.
Yeah. I mean, they're ready. Sailor Nemesis says Chipotle 6. I know that. It was 10 years ago, and, you know, I was broke. You know, I had to negotiate with a crackhead. What am I supposed to do? You know, it's like either that or he's going to break into your crap. And he'd probably go and recruit more. If they always, they'll go get more crackheads that'll come and help them. You know, one of them will distract you, and the other one will be breaking in. The other one's over there like, F you, man.
Yeah, they're good at teamwork.
They do. They'll work together until the crack comes to time to smoke it.
Yeah.
Then they're stab, you know, with each other.
They're like Legion.
Yeah.
Elastic Wolf's implementation of the art of war. Give thy enemy a golden bridge to retreat by. Or in this case, a burrito from Chipotle.
Whatever works.
To eat by, right? All right, guys. I got to get out of here, folks. I got to go do my job. All right, I'll see you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Dick Richards for coming. I know he's got a busy time. He's got things he's got to do. He's kind of like a crackhead, but he doesn't smoke crack. He's just a head. So he has to go and dive in, you know, to get the Tim Hortons.
I'm going back to the dumpster as soon as you're done with me here.
He's a functional crack.
He's a functional
head.
Tim Horton head.
Yeah, trash days tomorrow, bro. That thing's full. There's some gold in there.
I mean, it might be crack in there. Do you even know what's in your coffee?
Let's get it cracking here. Yeah, you don't know. I heard there's a lot of mold in that shit.
You just melt some bathtub crank in there.
And here you go, right here. In honor of Dick Richards here, Trash Panda.
Amazing.
He's a rocket powered trash panda, so I'm assuming he's probably on some meth or crack or something. He's just like,
I wish.
I've seen some raccoons. I've been like running around on my job sites, and I'm thinking those guys got to be on some drugs. They got into something because they're just like, you know.
I just saw the footage of the Baltimore fentanyl raccoon the other day, earlier tonight. He obviously got into somebody's bag of fentanyl, and he was doing the fentanyl.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? He was like, doing the fentanyl lean.
Look it up. The guy was laughing his head off. That thing was stoned off his face.
Oh man, poor thing.
Let's
hope he didn't stay involved in it. Let's hope he got some help somewhere.
Dude, I was going down one of the trails last summer.
Is this a long story? Because I gotta go.
No, it's 2 seconds. So I was going down the trail. All of a sudden, out of the bush, all I hear is somebody as a voice, "Hey, bro, you got any hard?" And I'm like, "Bro, dude, I'm out on a freaking walk here. We're in like we're in my dad's neighborhood. Like it's a real nice, the $1 million homes." And some bum sitting in the friggin' living in the bush, just the first person he sees walking by. Yo, you got any crack for sale?
Where else would they?
Well, it could have been worse. Like when we were at one of these complexes, I'm not going to say the name of it because we still do the patrol for them, but we were cleaning it up. 3 of us standing there wearing black uniforms. I mean, you know, we're either security or we're going to invade Poland. Either way, this guy comes up and he's like, literally, like they do that where they're checking their neck. I don't know. He wasn't doing the scratchy thing, but he was kind of like, you know, like looking at his hand and then putting his hand on his neck and looking at his hand. And he comes up, he goes, "You guys ain't got anything you selling?" I'm like, you see us dressed like this? I'm like, what? And I was like, "What are you looking for?" And he goes, "You know, just any upper, you know, whatever you got, something. Just I got to wake up, man." I think I guess he's an opportunist. He's willing to do meth or crack. And I said, "Dude, get the freaking hell away from us." And I showed him the patches and everything. Said, "What are you doing, dude?" I was like, "You're going to ask me?" His response to me was, he said that the last time that he had got a really good hit of crack, he bought it off of a police officer. That's what he told us.
Amazing.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the heck?
Amazing.
and those jump out guys would come through there every now and then, and I would talk to them, and I'm not one of those like, hey guys, you're a cop. I want to be like you, dude. No, I want to make money. I don't want to be like you. You're not going to, that's not, So I talked to them and I said, hey, I don't know if you got some uniform guys out here that this may or may not be true, but somebody was trying to buy crack or meth from us. He didn't specify, but the rumor is that he got it from a cop. So I asked another person that lived there, this guy that had been lived there for years. He says, yeah, there was a guy that used to do that. He would take it off of these dealers and then sell it in other neighborhoods. So this jump out guy goes, yeah, we were trying to pinpoint who it was. We think we figured it out. And I'm like, oh my God. So it was real. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, wow. So now you got to deal with that. It's like 6th Street all over again. And so I worked there for about 5, almost 6 months. The hot butt of the summer, like July, August, whatever, until January. It was a nightmare. And I was so glad to be out of there. And finally, because my business partner was working there and he got shot at, and I found out that he was working it. And I said, why are you working this? So I came over there and started helping him. And finally, I just told him, I said, you need to go home. You can't be out here. Because he used to be, at one time he was, big, tough guy, whatever, but he's getting older. And I said, you can't be doing this, so I took it over and I did it. And there had to be 2, sometimes 3 of us there. That was a place where we saw something on camera a couple times that we couldn't figure out what it was. We just assumed that it was a ghost of some kind.
Crazy.
Yeah, we saw these 2 white guys when there was only like one little group of white guys that lived there. They were all, let's put it this way. They went to prison and got themselves into white power. And but then they were there. One of them was tattooing everybody, and all of his clients were Hispanic and black, and then they were selling meth. So there were 3 white guys there, and they were covered in tattoos, but they fit in, I guess, kind of in a weird way because they were doing all kinds of horrible shit like everybody else. But they were the only white guys there. So I was sitting there eating my lunch. I'll tell this story. I've told it before. And I was eating my lunch, and I was eating these little like meals, Snap Kitchen meals, these little whatever. And they're not very big, so it doesn't take a real long time to eat your lunch. And I was on restricted calories. I was trying to lose weight, And I look on the camera and I see these 2 white guys. It looked like they walked out of an 80s Dillard's catalog. And I'm looking at the camera and I'm going like, why are they here? Like they don't fit in at all. My brother's standing out there, he's vaping. And I walk out there and I knocked on the glass. And he was like the spotter. Like he wouldn't wear the uniform. He would just be in regular plain clothes, and he would be so we could spot him. He could, they wouldn't spook him. He wouldn't spook them. They thought he was one of those people that was, and so they were always going back there to that area. And then when they'd come back out, you'd catch them and then turn them over, But it was just ridiculous. And the owners were just like on our ass, like to just get these people out of there so they could turn it into, whatever they need to turn it into. And they were from California, right? So we were whatever. And I'm sitting there looking at the cameras, and these 2 guys walk by, and they walk right by D, and D doesn't even notice them. So I go and I rap on the glass. I'm like, hey, you just see those 2 white guys go by? They're here to buy drugs. Obviously, they don't live over here. That's not. And he's like this. He's like, what? Like, so I go out and I said, yeah, there's 2 guys. And so I just walked around the corner, long hallway, or not hallway, but like long walkway by the pool. You would have seen them, right? Still, they're nowhere around. So I waited for like an hour. Nobody came back or anything. And so I went to the camera and I showed my brother, I said, look at the camera. And there was another guard with us, Clark, one of our friends that works for us. This is my brother's former brother-in-law. We're all looking at the camera. We're all stumped. There's like, who are these guys? Like there are 2 white guys that look like they like from the 80s or something. You know what I mean? Like, and they're right there on camera, and you can see that they're not from that complex. They never came back out of wherever they went. There was nothing but a big fence there. They weren't going to be able to get around. It had concertina wire on it.
Weird.
So I don't know. And that was the second time something had happened. The first time I was sitting there eating dinner and I saw this black pillar in the corner of the room on the camera, like starting to grow on the camera, like taking the shape of a humanoid figure. And I'm like, once again, I was eating my lunch, and so I got up and I yelled. I said, "Hey, come here." And my brother came in and I said, "Look at the camera." And then at that point, we were looking at the corner where the thing was, and we couldn't see it. But on camera, it was appearing like a pillar. And we just kept looking at it, and it eventually grew into like a humanoid shape and was moving around. It freaked us out. And then another time, the manager there, her name was Sandra. She was a really nice lady. And I was out in the parking lot, broad daylight, 3 PM, like in the fall. Nice day. It was a really nice day. Once we got it all cleaned up, it was easy. Like November, December was pretty easy. A little bit of creepy crawly at night, but not much. And I was there in the day. I was on a day shift. And I just remember her calling me and talking like quietly. And she's like, come in the office. And I'm like, why are you whispering? Because I could see the office right there from my truck. And so I closed the door. I just walk in. I'm like, what's going on? She opens the door and she's like, oh my gosh. Oh my God. And so something was moving around and messing with the door handle. She could see the camera on her phone. There's nobody there. And it freaked her the hell out, dude. Like something was moving around in the office. And you couldn't really see anything. You could just see like a little bit of movement, like her papers get moved,
like poltergeist kind of thing.
It was weird. It was really weird. I was there one time and she was on the phone and the refrigerator door slammed and neither one of us had opened it. And I'm sitting across from her at the desk and I'm like, what the freaking heck was that? So it turns out one of the constables there, his brother was a gangster that we knew from way back. And he died in a boating accident years ago. And this guy was a constable now, and he looked just like his brother. And Scorpion used to go to school with these guys. And we were both there that day. It was during the day. We had 2 guards because there was a big thing. Somebody got stabbed. We had a person literally get stabbed to death the second night we were there. Me and my brother were there.
Damn.
And that was a woman with her. It was so horrible, sad. She was killed right there, and her children. So my brother like shielded the children and said, go upstairs,
Ow.
It was horrible. And I had to she was laying there. I had, laying her on the ground. The guy that did it was saying that he did it because she used the N-word. And I'm going like, she's black. So that was his excuse. So that didn't fly, obviously, because it's black on black crime is what it was. And it was just horrible. And because she had told him to get a job because he asked her for $1, the bus stop. And she was like, so he just did that. And we were dealing with something at the other end of the complex. We come back and that's happening. Got him away. He ran. They apprehended him hiding in a yard down the road in a residential area. That was horrible. That was a horrible thing. And after all that, my wife was like, you're not doing these government housing things anymore. That was just a Section 8. That wasn't a government housing project, but it was a Section 8. And so I told her, okay. And then they found 3 bodies behind there that somebody had, executed. It was gang and drug warfare, basically. But I had to deal with people. I had to be aggressive at times and do things, and they were going to kill me and shoot me and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, whatever. But this situation here, this is what would go on there. But this constable, he comes in and he tells me that years ago, somebody had walked in and shot the manager and the maintenance guy in that office. The manager died.
Just at random?
No, I'm sure that there was an anger thing. They were mad because they were getting evicted, and they went in and they stalked and killed the manager, and the maintenance guy lived.
Brutal.
But there was a death, and we had an apartment that was our like little office that we used for the security.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never forget. I went in there one morning and I was dog tired, and I was like putting some water on my face, and I had my toothbrush and my razor there, whatever. And my wife was in the hospital at that time. It was horrible, and I had to go visit her when I get off. So I was going, and then I was in there, and I was shaving one morning, and I was just tired. I was working like these 10 to 12 hour shifts. And so I see this older looking black dude behind me, like walking up behind me real quick. I'm like, whoa. And I turn and there's nobody there. There's nothing there. So I asked about it. I asked there was a guy that worked, had been there forever. His name was Joseph. And I said, Joseph, do you know anything about this apartment we're in over here? Because the maintenance people didn't know anything more than we did. They'd been there as long as we had. And he says, yeah, there used to be an old guy, lived there, whatever. He was a shut-in and he was a hoarder. And he took his own life.
Oh, wow.
So every now and then it would manifest. Like you'd hear stuff snapping, clapping, like somebody was bless you. And it was, dang, it was crazy, dude. Like it was really crazy. The maintenance guys, they were terrified. There was a pump shotgun right there by the door, and one day it just fell over, And I was like, damn, that could have been bad. And so I took it and put it up, and then it would keep getting set by the door. And I kept telling, but why is this here at the door? Like, I'd getting mad, The maintenance guys and the other security, we're not putting it. I don't know why nobody could tell me.
Wow.
And so I just made sure it was unloaded and just said, well, we're going to keep it unloaded.
Yeah, no doubt.
Unloaded if something happens. But that was, it was a creepy place. And I'd be there at night and I would see somebody walk by in front of I'd be doing the paperwork because they wanted a paper report, which is so stupid. We had it on the computer on the phone and they were just like, we want it on. So I was writing the report like it was the old days, and I'd look up and I'd see somebody walk and I'd run out of the room and there's nobody out there. So you couldn't stand there too long because then the people would start doing crap. It was a nightmare, but it paid well. And my partner was like, oh, we're going to do it. Okay. So we did it. I finished it and I had to fight 3 or 4 people.
Yikes.
Yeah, I had to fight this one guy. He was a big old dude, man. It was like WWE had like a little promoter. He's like, my boy, knock your ass out, white boy. Da, 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 da. And so I was like, come on, camera. Yeah. Eventually, I didn't knock him out, but I knocked him out on his ass. And I was like, and then he's like, I'll be back. And then he staggered around and he ran out into the road. Another time, a guy tried to hit me and Scorpion caught him and pushed him. And he went and stood in the middle of the road for like 20 minutes, screaming and yelling on a tirade about how he was going to cut my throat and kill me and do all this and do. His heart didn't pump Kool-Aid, yo. And I was like, okay, whatever. So we just stood there watching this guy. And then a car drives by. And while he's doing this with his arm, it hits his arm and his arm just goes like this. Well, your arm isn't made to go like that. So everything must have gotten torn in that. Screaming and screaming and screaming. So he goes and falls over at the bus stop and then calls the police on us. He's a crackhead, right? And he's really mad at the crack dealers because they're not selling him crack and they're laughing at him. And so the cops come. The cops come to me, and the cops over there were useless. Not the jump out. Those guys were cool, but the plain cop, they were fucking stupid guys. Come over there. He's like, well, this guy says you broke his arm. I'm like, no, officer, that didn't happen. He stood in the road stupidly, and I got a video of it, and I showed it to him. I said, here it is. He's standing out in the road, screaming, yelling. What's he doing? I don't know. He's promoting Amway. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's out there in the middle of the road like an idiot, like an asshole. And then the car hits him, and it's obviously an upstanding dreamer that just keeps going. He's like, oh my gosh, I think I hit somebody. He kept going, and the guy's arm breaks. And it's like you take one of these, like a Jack in the Box. If you just go like that, his arm did that. And he goes, oh, that had to hurt. I said, yes. And there's like, several minutes of him talking a bunch of shit. I mean, there he is. He's a crackhead. What's he upset about? I looked at this cop and I said, how old are you? I'm 32. I said, yeah, okay. What do you think he's upset about? He's mad because we kicked him off the property. He couldn't get his Scooby snacks. They're delicious, and he needed them. Okay, so that's what happened. And so he goes, well, yeah. They think they know a lot of stuff. I was like, if you did, you wouldn't be that. You wouldn't be what you are. So that's why you don't know. And so he says, oh, you guys over here are just doing what you want and doing shit. And you're not either. And then he goes over there, and they train them to be DEI shit, whatever. So getting aggravated with these people. But anyway, he goes over there, and they're babying this guy. Poor guy. He's been abused. I didn't run him over. I just wouldn't let him on my property. And, you know, and we had the contract representing the owner. We were representing the owner's interest. And I said, this guy's not allowed here. I want to CTA him, whatever. Well, you know, he's going to go to an ambulance. Well, before he goes, I want to give him a criminal trespass notice, CTN. So I did. And then he never came back. But that was the kind of shit that went on all the time. And then the police would come and they acted like they wanted to be on the side of the criminals. I'm not even joking. They did. They wanted to help them somehow. They always wanted to figure out a way to make it to where you're the guy at fault. And I get it, because a lot of security are dumb shits and they want to act like want to be cops. I don't want to be a freaking cop. I just want to do my job and go home.
I thought the cops were supposed to be on your side.
The jump out guys were. Those regular people, no. We had a fugitive that came there, and we were working with the what are they called? The federal guys.
U.S. Marshal.
The U.S. Marshals. I got to be real good friends with them, and we helped them apprehend a guy who had just shot a guy's head off at a convenience store, and he walked right over to our site after 2 hours before they had canvassed everything. He came out of that hovel with those white power dudes. He was a Hispanic guy, and he walked right by me, and so I told him, I said, un trago, por favor. He was smoking a cigarette, and he handed me a cigarette. It's Spanish for, can I get a cigarette? And he handed me a cigarette, and I stood there, and I ID'd him. So I called the marshals, and I said, hey, this guy just walked across the street. He walked through our property. That's him. And we were told not to try to effect an arrest. So I don't want to. I had a reward on him or whatever, but I'm not a bounty hunter at that time anyway. I said, I'm not trying to get anything for this guy. I just want to go home, like I said. So they came and they laid down on our property, the property across the street. The police from the regular cops came with like 30 cars to our complex and the one across the street. And man, that marshal, the head marshal, he freaking lost it, dude. So this fat girl gets out of her car and comes over and starts bossing me around and trying to talk down to me and talk shit or whatever. And I said, lady, I don't work for you. I'm not doing what you say just because you fucking say it. And I turned around and walked off, and she says, hey. She starts trying to get all up in my AO, and that marshal ran over there, and he says, get the F off the property. Look what you did. We're not going to catch this guy now. Not today. And you're over here messing with him. He's the only one doing his freaking job. And he just went off on them, dude. Like they got in their cars and they left. He was so mad because they ruined it. They ruined their catch. And this guy was a dangerous fugitive. I watched the video. He killed that dude in cold blood. He executed a guy over it was a laptop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he blew this guy away in a parking lot. And so, you know, the blue, whatever, the regular uniform cops started having more, they had more issues with us. They didn't like us. So they came on and started messing with me, and started with one guy after I had drugged this guy around the parking lot, trying to get him to get off of this girl that he was beating up. Because it was the first week we were there, it was like the third or fourth day. She was walking through, and I had to ID everybody, and she was looking down at the ground. I know what that means. And she's a prostitute, and she can't talk to me because her pimp's behind him. He's coming up, and I said, I need to talk to you. Give me your ID. Man, you don't look at her. Don't look at him, ho. Look at the ground. Fuck that motherfucker. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, who are you? He said, I'm a motherfucker. I run this place. He was wearing a bulletproof vest with no shirt on, hot as hell, and he's got his phone in the trauma plate. I said, you're the guy, huh? You're the bad dude here. So we got into an altercation, and somebody called the police on me. So that's how it started. The cops came, and this guy's like holding his vest. They do that stupid shit.
Yeah.
They do. Let me tell you something here, boy. You're gonna be living in a van down by the river. I know you want to be me real bad and make $30,000 a year, boy. No, I don't actually. I think you're a fucking ass clown. And he figured out real quick. So then the jump out came like next day, and they're like, hey, what's your problem with us? We need to work together. I said, I don't have a problem working with you. I'm just not going to take your shit. I'm not going to take their shit. I don't want to take anybody's shit. That's all.
What's the jump out? What does that mean?
They do the narcotics. Those guys actually were very useful. They were helpful. The marshals were helpful too. And I actually stayed in contact with one of them over the years. But yeah, and there it is right there. Overbuilt, said it right there. Blue City, a mess. They teach the police to be dumb shits like them. So I feel bad for these guys, but they signed up for this. And so they're during the riots, a few years ago, they were getting piss and spit and whatever shit thrown on them in front of the courthouse. And they just had to stand there and take it. And I talked to one of these black cops when we were literally at Tyson's Tacos. It's a Boston staple. And I was there one night, and he had a Korean guy as his partner, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I felt bad for these guys because I could hear him talking about the bullshit. And I said, there was a couple nights before, and I said, I was actually down there. We were guarding a property we still have to this day. And I told him, I said, I saw what they were doing. They were also killing animals.
What?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you couldn't take a video of it or anything because they had these little, and I'm shit you not, I promise you this is the absolute truth, folks. If I'm lying, I'm telling you the absolute truth. They had about 200 or 300 of these black shirted guys with commie sickle symbols on their arms. Probably about 300 of them down there. And if you lifted up a phone, they were going to beat your ass. You would get your ass beat. So they were walking with the masks and everything that were BLM and Antifa. And they were walking with animals in cages. And they were murdering them at the steps of the courthouse.
Like a satanic ritual.
Pretty much. And of course, the liberal media doesn't show you any of that. And of course, I don't know if anybody got footage or not. Some people said they did, but they couldn't get it out anywhere. It never went viral. And like I think it was just because they were so, no, not just dogs or cats. What did they have? They had like ferrets and other shit too.
Yeah.
They had a lot of different stuff and they were killing it. Yeah. Now I didn't see them do the killing. I saw them taking the animals up there. So I was talking to this one cop and he was telling me, and I really got to run, but this cop, he was telling me, he says, he goes, they messed with my house. I'm a black cop, and so they did stuff to his house. Whatever. And, talking about him being a, Uncle Tom or whatever, and a sellout. They spray painted BLM all over his house, whatever. Somebody doxed him,
Brutal.
I wouldn't be a cop here in Austin for nothing. For $1 million a year. Wouldn't do it. Because, as much as you want to be a cop, and maybe some of these people really want to help and make a difference, they're going to condition you to be a liberal and do it liberal ways. And it happened to me and Anthony when we were working security recently, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
We had an issue and translator came and I was like, I can tell you right now what he said. I know what he said because I speak Spanish. And the guy was saying this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he had a gun. Well, we searched his vehicle. I said, no, you didn't. You did not search his vehicle. He opened up the hatchback and he showed you a soccer ball and you nodded your head and that was it. That was it. And the translator was all on their side. I'm asking the questions here. Probably 25-year-old kid, talking all this shit. Finally, I got aggravated and I just told him, give me my fucking ID. That was it. I'm done talking to you. I'm done with this. Either charge me with something, arrest me, let me go, because I'm not being detained by you any longer. Just tired of your shit. You don't do anything for us. You're just trying to find a reason to be against us, so let us go. We didn't do anything wrong. We did our jobs. And so that is, the problem. And from what I'm hearing, that's pretty much it for all of these blue cities. That's what they do. There's that kind of bullshit right there.
They just had a home invasion in Lindsay the other day, I guess over the weekend, and the guy that was doing the home invasion attacked the homeowner. The homeowner gave it to the guy real good and beat the shit out of him, and they arrested the homeowner.
That's what happens.
Excessive force. Yeah.
They find a way in these blue cities to make you the criminal.
Absolutely.
So yeah, forgive me if I'm not backing the blue here. I'll back the blue in just about anywhere, but not in these major cities because it's a different animal. You know what I mean? That's my thing. And and for me, it's about business. I stand on business. I'm not here to talk. I hate these young guys and gals. They got all this authority, It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, you're harassing me and start trying to stand on your rights and all that crap. I'm not doing that. I'm a grown man and I'm fair is fair and right is right. Yeah. And I'm not expecting you to back me up just because of what I say. But I'm going to tell you the truth and I'm not going to take these people's shit. I'm sorry. It's a sanctuary city and those guys were illegals. And they wanted to start shit. And it was so sickening because they knew they could get away with it. And that one cop says, yeah, I've dealt with them before. I was like, so they've been a problem before. And here you are harassing us. asking us our story over and over again, so you can try to punch holes in it, so you can try to do something to us, the American citizens.
Unbelievable.
It's American citizen against these punks from another country. And we weren't starting anything with it. We just asked them to stop screaming, yelling, playing loud music in the parking lot. They didn't live there. So we gave them a CTN. They at least allowed us to do our jobs in that respect. The client cares about the bottom line. They don't give a shit. You know, you're being run interference by the police. What are you going to tell them? The police stopped us from doing our job for you. How's that going to work?
So backwards and upside down, bro.
Mm-hmm. And they always underestimate who they're dealing with. They think they're dealing with some stupid punk who gives a shit that they wear a badge and walk around with a freaking gun. I don't give a shit about you. I'm not here to cosplay or be your friend. Fuck you. That's what I say. So that's it. So anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. That's a sound clip there that you can take, Roach Man. You can go make a little video about it. All right there, buddy. I used to be a cop, man. Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah.
You're dumb enough to be. Anyways, folks, not everybody's a dickhead. Not all security are douchebags, and not all cops are dickheads, and not all people are crooked and bad. Just a lot of people. Because you're living in a time of bad. A lot of bad. And a little bit of good. Right? So, but me, I'm a realist. And I'm a business person. I try to do what we got to do. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being the best part of what makes this, you know, whatever. Somebody said Abe is live now. Okay, guys, go check out Abe. But I'm out of here, man. Thank you for tuning in. I got to go. I've been here way too long. Dick Richards, man, he had to come and start talking, being stupid.
Go.
They go stupid ass.
I know. I'm glad you're late for work.
So you can go dumpster dive now and go get us some delicious Tim Hortons. Put it in a bag and ship it to me. And so I can eat it live and get food poisoning immediately.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, that's some real jackass stuff there. We got.
I'll send you the coffee too.
We got such a low sub count going right now that we got to do something to try to get some views here. Let's get a blowtorch and light a cigar with it.
All right.
See what we can do.
Here, I'll put out the cigarette on my tongue.
Okay, guys, don't do that. We don't want you to do that.
I'm not.
All right, cool. All right. Somebody asked you about your shirt. They said, "Is that a bud on your shirt?" What do you got on your shirt there? What is it?
Oh no, it's the dog. It's the Dogman shirt.
That's a Dogman. It looks like a big mouth of a dog.
It's the mouth and the nose, yeah, but it's Dogman size.
That ain't a Dogman.
And buddy, it's the size of the damn Dogman that breathed in my face. I'll tell you that.
All right, buddy. We'll see you, buddy guy.
See you later, guys.
All right. See you.
Right. Love you all. God bless.
Yeah. All right. God bless you.
this pain away. I know I stray. My soul is tired with heavy burdens, no clergyman redemption. I stand alone, my sins ingrained into my bones. Heaven or hell, where will my soul dwell? Eternity is waiting for me. Jesus, I beg, have mercy on me. Rosary Ray, Mother Mary, can you help me? Please, God, don't forsake me. Remember me, remember me. Holding on tightly to my rosary ray. Mother Mary, can you help me? Please, God, don't forsake me. Remember me, remember me. Holding on tightly to my rosary. Rosarium, Mater Maria, potens nemium.